Chapter 45-91. Perhaps he sensed the young lady's puzzled gaze. He suddenly regained his senses, and when he turned his head to look at Yiqing Luo, his lips revealed his signature warm smile. I am thinking to really let go of you. If your gaze lingers on me for just a moment more, I will feel that I still have a chance. He smiled. His smile turned bitter. If in future you don't wish to be pestered by someone like me, then just be as heartless as now, don't give me any hope. Yiqing Luo's eyes flickered slightly. She opened her mouth wanting to say something, but Gu Jingyu's hand was pressed against her lips. Don't speak, it will affect your body. He spoke in a gentle voice. Yiqing Luo nodded. Gu Jingyu looked at her quietly for a moment. The hand which was pressed against his lips took some time before he slowly retracted it. When his fingers were placed back on his knees, his eyes dimmed by quite a bit. The next 2 days, it had always been Gu Jingyu by her side, taking care of her. Yiqing Luo's wound, which was itchy and painful from time to time, was only left with itchiness. In the end, she couldn't feel any sensation from her wound. Her throat slowly started to emit a slight airflow sound. She could also get off the bed and take 2 steps. Savage Blood Bone King would return roughly 2 to 3 times a day. Every time he took a look at Yiqing Luo's condition, he would leave in a hurry. Every time she saw Savage Blood Bone King, Yiqing Luo would use a hopeful gaze to look over. But Savage Blood Bone King had never given her an answer. No answer meant that there was no result. Yiqing Luo was feeling apprehensive, but she also understood. Right now, no result was the best result. At least, there was no evidence to prove that her brothers had all died in that stretch of mountain range. Thinking about those people in the world group again? Gu Jingyu carried a bowl of black medicinal liquid as he walked to the wooden chair beside Yiqing Luo's bed. As he sat down, Yiqing Luo received the medicine. The pungent medicinal liquid was extremely unpleasant. Even Yiqing Luo couldn't smell out what was the composition of this medicinal liquid. She drank the medicinal liquid expressionlessly. Gu Jingyu took the empty medicine bowl, and a faint smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. This is the last bowl of medicine. The rest depends on your physique. Maybe the xianing fragrance will be exhausted, or maybe it will be tomorrow. Yiqing Luo nodded her head as she looked at the man in front of her, that extremely warm smile on his face. Her pink lips moved slightly. Thank you. The sound of air drifted over so lightly that it was almost inaudible. Gu Jingyu's movements paused, and his smile grew warmer. This is something I am willing to do. There is no need for you to thank me. Yiqing Luo's eyelids drooped as she turned sideways and leaned against the headboard. The wound on her shoulder was still there. But now, the wound had recovered its pink and tender color, and was no longer festering black. Gu Jingyu washed the dishes and put them away. He returned to Yiqing Luo's bedside. He sat down and chuckled. After today we will no longer be strangers, he was smiling. There was a hint of amusement in his tone. But in the ears of the people. But it was so bitter. I really miss these 3 days. Gu Jingyu laughed lightly again, as a warm glint flowed between his eyes, as though a warm current flowed into her heart. And thank you for letting me have these 3 days of dreams. Yiqing Luo's drooping eyelids finally had some changes. She raised her head and looked at Gu Jingyu, as her slender brows creased. You're leaving? His words seemed like his final farewell. With the young lady's gaze, Gu Jingyu's lips turned even more radiant. That's right. I said before, I only wanted to save you. Chapter 45-92. Now that I've already saved you, it's time for me to leave. There was something subtle in his tone. It made Yiqing Luo feel a sense of uneasiness. You saved me really, alright? She stared at his eyes without blinking, as she opened her mouth with difficulty. Gu Jingyu raised his finger and placed it on his lips, indicating her not to force herself to speak. After that, he smiled at her and shook his head. I'm really all right. I came to save you. I calculated the time. I can assure you that my master absolutely doesn't know. He paused as a sliver of disappointment flashed past his eyes. I'm preparing to leave because my master is coming out of his closed-door cultivation tomorrow. I must rush back to secluded palace before he comes out. Yiqing Luo saw all of Gu Jingyu's expressions. She didn't notice anything amiss. She suppressed the uneasiness in her heart as she nodded slightly at him. I understand. Gu Jingyu smiled again. Just like when she first met him, noble and gentle. His eyes were like gurgling warm water, extremely clear and moist. You don't intend to ask me to stay? Yiqing Luo shook her head. Word by word, she spat out a silent airflow. You know very well that I won't ask you to stay. He laughed again. Yes, he was indeed clear. Even if he saved her, she would absolutely not change her view of him because of this. Their standpoints were destined to be different. She would never like him. Probably because she was mentally prepared. Or probably she had already decided on the thoughts in her heart. Gu Jingyu didn't feel as bad as he imagined. The corners of his lips were still able to maintain an upward arc. His face was still as moist as water. He slowly stood up. Although the profound fragrance has been expelled, but your wound still needs to be taken care of. I'll write a prescription for you. Let Bone Lord change your dressing on time every day. Saying that, he walked towards the table by the side. He had just taken a few steps. A young lady's voice was heard from behind, Gu Jingyu. Her voice was very soft. Only the movement of the airflow could be heard. Gu Jingyu immediately turned around and asked her concernedly, What's the matter, are you feeling uncomfortable anywhere? Yiqing Luo's eyes were burning as she looked at him, as she said word by word, In future, as long as you don't hurt the people around me, I will try my best to let you off. Even if she didn't want to owe him. She did not want to have anything to do with him anymore. But the truth was that it had happened. Gu Jingyu did save her. She couldn't really do as Gu Jingyu said, and cut herself in half from now on. This was something that could no longer be cut apart. She accepted his kindness. It must be repaid. Yiqing Luo. Gu Jingyu's expression turned serious. He suddenly increased the strength of his palms on her arms. I've said it before. After today, we have nothing to do with each other. I owe you enough favors. Yiqing Luo frowned. You saved me, this is a fact. I saved you in exchange for a chance to end things between us. I'm using this method to force myself to give you up. Gu Jingyu's eyes rippled with a trace of madness. If you can't accept me and can't be with me, then don't give me any hope. Don't give me even a little bit of hope, that gentle and respectable man. Right now his breathing was hurried as he grabbed her arm. His emotions were very agitated. Yiqing Luo, I don't want you to be soft-hearted towards me, to show mercy to me. Yiqing Luo's brows creased even tighter. The pain in his arms was also a little painful due to his agitation and tightening his grip. Dear, this chapter has ended. I wish you a happy reading. Big smiley face. Chapter 4593. Yiqing Luo didn't respond to his words. She only used a strange gaze to size him up, as though she was guessing the deeper meaning of his words. Gu Jingyu suddenly regained his senses as he let go of her arms. He stood up abruptly with his back facing Yiqing Luo. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hurt you. I just thought. He paused for a while before he continued to say the following words. I just thought to really let you go. His hands slowly clenched into fists. Yiqing Luo. You're not willing to cut off all ties with me. Can I have a little bit of hope that actually you will fall in love with me? If there's no Overlord, will you be with me? The man's tone was filled with caution and anticipation. Yiqing Luo looked at his back view. Looking at his stiff and slightly trembling body, Yi Zichen could not help but sigh. Momentarily she didn't know how to answer. No, I won't. Right at this moment, a chilly, low, and deep voice that was mellow and hoarse like fine wine sounded out. That voice was mixed with a deep and cold anger. It brought along an oppressive aura as it pressed forward. But in an instant, the entire thatched cottage seemed to have turned into an ice cellar, so cold that it was bone-chilling. That tensed-up Gu Jingyu, who was standing there, suddenly stiffened when he heard this voice. His eyes uncontrollably widened. Totally different from Gu Jingyu's reaction was Yi-Ching Luo, who was on the bed. She suddenly sat up straight, her eyes went past Gu Jingyu, fixated on the front without blinking. Her long and narrow eyes surged with joy. "Lil Luor, is my woman, you have no hope at all." The man walked into the room, his cold gaze looked at Gu Jingyu coldly. "Even without me, it's not your turn." When he walked to Gu Jingyu's side, the man's expression became more vicious. In his eyes, a wisp of murderous intent could be seen spreading. "Ah, Xian." The young lady's soft voice was heard from the front, and instantly attracted the man's attention. He retracted his murderous aura. He rushed to the side of the bed. Just as he sat on the side of the bed, the young lady had already pounced into his arms. The wound on the girl's shoulder was still there, and it looked very ghastly. His pupils constricted as he circled the girl's soft waist with one arm. The other hand wanted to encircle Yi-Ching Luo, but was worried that it would touch the location of the wound. "Little Luor, does it hurt?" He looked at the girl's wound with heartache, and his eyes were bloodshot. Yi-Ching Luo buried her head tightly in the man's chest and shook it. "But it hurts." The man's mellow voice was low, and he couldn't wait to rub the girl's delicate body into his. He lowered his head slightly. His nostrils were filled with the delicate fragrance of a young girl. His eyes gradually became warm. "I miss you." Yi-Ching Luo's hands were tightly wrapped around his waist. Her head was pressed against the man's chest. She missed him too. "I really want to." She had already planned to look for Dmo Xian after the profound Yin fragrance was completely expelled from her body. Unexpectedly, he had already found his way here. The pair of lovers, who had missed each other for a long time, hugged each other tightly. It was as if the world between them could no longer contain a third person. That kind of sweetness, sincerity, without any impurities. Not too far away, the stiff Gu Jingyu stood there in a daze. He didn't dare to turn his head. Didn't want to look at the sweet scene between them. But even if he didn't turn his head, in his mind, he could imagine numerous scenes. He was the clearest. Just how loving was Yi-Ching Luo and Dmo Xian. "Dear, this chapter has ended. I wish you a happy reading." Big smiley face. Chapter 4594. After a long time, Gu Jingyu shut his eyes tightly, burying all the painful emotions in the deepest part of his heart. He lifted his feet and walked out of the thatched cottage, forcing himself not to turn back, to take another look at Yi-Ching Luo. Just as he closed the door, the middle-aged man's deep voice was heard from behind. "Leaving already?" "Yes." Gu Jingyu looked at the person in front. "I should leave." "You really want to cut off all ties with Ching Luo?" Blood-Bone Savage King's sharp brows examined Gu Jingyu. Gu Jingyu laughed. "This is the only way, it's best for both of us." "You can bear to?" Blood-Bone Savage King narrowed his eyes. "This god is very clear, these few days. It's not that Ching Luo can't speak, but you. Don't let her speak." Gu Jingyu didn't panic after being discovered, instead he laughed. "You saw through it?" Blood-Bone Savage King didn't reply, but the gaze that was examining him was filled with probing. Gu Jingyu raised his head, gazing at the slightly gray sky. He smiled. "Because I'm afraid she will reject me. Her words are always so cold, not giving me any hope. All her tender feelings are only given to the Overlord alone. These 3 days is what I stole, the most blissful 3 days of my life. Now that I've woken up from my dream, it's time for me to leave." He retracted his gaze, looking back at Blood-Bone Savage King. "In future, I hope Bone Lord can take care of her when the Overlord is not around. And if possible, try to persuade her." He took a deep breath, as though he had exhausted all his energy, if we really meet again. Treat me as the real Palace Lord of secluded Darkness Palace. In the house, the young couple were affectionate for a long time. Yiqing Luo then popped out her little head from his embrace. "Ah Xian, how did you find me?" When she spoke, every word was exhaled. Diamo Xian's eyes were filled with heartache as he bent down and kissed her lips. "I followed Blood-Bone Savage King here. Have you found Xiao Yi and the rest?" Yiqing Luo grabbed his robe tightly as she asked carefully. Her tone was filled with apprehension and uneasiness. But he was afraid to find out about them. He was also looking forward to hearing their news from Diamo Xian. Diamo Xian's body stiffened, his large palm caressed her face, found it. His reaction scared her. The young girl was slightly startled. Her little hand gripped his collar tighter. "Then they're fine, right? Don't worry." Diamo Xian's slender fingers slowly unclenched her 5 tightly clenched fingers as he comforted her in a warm voice. "You used the Azure Dew Ring to protect them at the last moment. They're all right." After hearing this piece of news, all the worry and pressure that he had been feeling for the past few days disappeared. Her delicate body froze. He relaxed again. Her long and narrow eyes began to redden. "They're all right. Are they really all right?" Yiqing Luo's voice was slightly agitated. The airflow when she exhaled also made her throat feel extremely uncomfortable. But she didn't seem to notice it as she grabbed onto Diamo Xian and continued, "Then where are they now? They're all right? And Ajan he." Oh, Yiqing Luo wasn't able to finish her question in time. The man had already bent his head down, as he forcefully bit on her lips, sealing all her words. The man's overbearing aura instantly infected the young girl. "Dear, this chapter has ended. I hope you enjoy reading." Big smiley face. Chapter 4595. Only when he had completely rendered the young girl unable to speak did he slowly let go of her. However, he did not forget to give her a fierce peck on her lips. "They're fine, stop talking." Diamo Xian pulled her into his arms. "Don't you believe me?" Yiqing Luo leaned on his chest, panting lightly as her cheeks blushed slightly. She nodded in his arms. Naturally, she believed him. Only, worried that Diamo Xian was afraid that she would be worried and purposely said these words to comfort her. Diamo Xian's large palm gently caressed the young lady's back. His eyes were filled with love and tenderness, like a pool of spring water. He said softly, "I heard from the Bloodbone Barbarian King that the mysterious fragrance will be completely expelled from your body by tomorrow. I will bring you to see them." Yiqing Luo nodded vigorously. But very quickly she seemed to have thought of something as her tiny hands gripped onto the man's shirt, raising her head to look at him while mouthing, "Then, where's Ajan?" Diamo Xian's eyes sunk slightly. Yiqing Luo blinked her eyes nervously. She knew that Diamo Xian cared about her. Long Yunzhan was the one who hurt her. Even if it wasn't his intention. But the one who injured her was indeed Long Yunzhan. She was worried that Diamo Xian would take action against Long Yunzhan because of this. To Diamo Xian, those people in the world group, it was only because she cared about them that he would take care of them. If it wasn't for her, they were afraid that Diamo Xian would not even cast a glance at them. Long Yunzhan had hurt her. Diamo Xian would definitely fly into a rage. "I didn't find him." When he mentioned Long Yunzhan, Diamo Xian's eyes turned sinister. From that day onwards, he disappeared without a trace. Yiqing Luo heaved a sigh of relief as she mouthed, "Ah Xian isn't angry, Ah Zhan he was." "You don't have to explain for him." Diamo Xian's index finger pressed against Yiqing Luo's lips. "He hurt you. It's because of the secluded palace." Yiqing Luo still wanted to say something. Diamo Xian's kiss landed again. "Lil Luo, he hurt you. This point, there's no room for discussion." The next day, Heaven Realm, a courtyard in a relatively remote town. Gu Zishi finished brewing the medicine and handed it to Qiao Jin. "Be careful." Xiao Yi has been unconscious for 3 days, why hasn't she woken up yet? Is she actually seriously injured? Qiao Jin held the medicine, his face full of anxiety and unease. The man's ordinary face was haggard. The corners of his eyes were a patch of greenish-black. His chin was also covered with loose stubble. Gu Zishi shook her head with a troubled expression. Ren Jianying's profound strength is too strange. I don't know what method or strength she used to injure Xiao Yi's internal organs, she sighed. Right now, we can only temporarily use herbs to alleviate the spread of Xiao Yi's injuries. As for the rest, although she was a medicine master, however, these internal injuries were far beyond her understanding. She was still helpless. Especially now, their group was completely like fugitives in the heaven realm. If he stuck his head out, it was very likely that he was caught again. The power of the Palace of Darkness combined with the power of the Rin family. It was about to swallow the entire heavenly realm. She didn't even dare to go out to look for medicinal herbs, or to invite a more powerful doctor. Qiao Jin's eyes were filled with pain. He shut his eyes hard as he carried the medicine and went to Yan Xiao Yi's room. Gu Zishi looked at Qiao Jin's back view as she sighed silently. Behind her, an arm encircled her petite body. The man's gentle voice was heard from behind. Qiao Jin is too worried about Xiao Yi, don't take it to heart. Calm. WonderfulBookHouse.com. Chapter 4596. Gu Zishi's hand was placed on the arm which was encircling her as she leaned her head on his body. I know, I can understand his feelings. Huang Fu Xing's arms encircled his beloved woman as he sniffed the familiar fragrance of the woman. Only then could he be at ease. He could never forget the thrilling danger which they had experienced 3 days ago. Luckily that day, Yiqing Luo used the Azure Water God Relic's energy to protect them, delaying the time when they were swallowed. Luckily that day, the Overlord rushed over in time and saved them from danger. Otherwise, they would all be swallowed by that destructive forbidden art. They would no longer exist in this world. But Yiqing Luo was stabbed by Long Yunzhan. Even though they were quite a distance apart, they could clearly see that when Long Yunzhan stabbed towards Yiqing Luo, the wound on his shoulder was oozing out an undetectable black qi. It was a black qi which made one's hair stand on end upon seeing it. Following that, Yiqing Luo disappeared in front of their eyes. No one saw clearly how Yiqing Luo disappeared. Later on, they were sent to this place by the Overlord and left. 3 days passed. They didn't know what was Yiqing Luo's current situation. His heart was so heavy that it couldn't be any heavier. I wonder where did Brother Long go to? Huang Fu Xing recalled that day when the Overlord heard that it was Long Yunzhan who injured Yiqing Luo. He sighed. If the Overlord finds him, I'm afraid the Overlord will not let him off. A Luo and Brother Long's relationship. If the Overlord really killed Brother Long, I'm afraid A Luo will be upset. Gu Zishi's eyelids drooped. They really couldn't imagine. Just a moment ago, they were still fighting side by side. The next moment, he pointed his weapon towards his teammate. They heard Xiao Jin's simple explanation. It was because Long Yunzhan was controlled by the people from the Nether Palace. But, generally speaking, wanting to control someone, there must be a medium. Ever since Long Yunzhan came to Heaven Realm, he had never acted alone. How did he get implanted by the people from the Nether Palace? Sister Ziqing, Xia went to look for Brother Long. Could it be that she knows where Brother Long is? Gu Zishi said worriedly, since Brother Long is already in a controlled state, if Big Sister Ziqing looks for him, wouldn't that is Ziqing's own choice? Huang Fu Xing chuckled and kissed her hair. If I was also controlled and disappeared, would you look for me? Yes. He answered almost without hesitation. A faint smile appeared in Huang Fu Xing's eyes. The Overlord will definitely find A Luo. As long as he finds A Luo, he will definitely find Brother Long. Huang Fu Xing rested his head on her shoulder. We have to trust them. The other side. Qiao Jin carried the medicinal concoction that Gu Zishi had brewed into the dark room. The room was extremely quiet. The air was still filled with the faint scent of medicine. Qiao Jin walked to the bedside and placed the bowl of medicine on the side. He sat by the bedside and gazed affectionately at the person on the bed. There was gentleness in his eyes. He stretched out his hand and gently stroked the woman's outline with his slender and fair fingers. His fingertips were warm, as if he was painting the woman's face with every stroke. Xiao Yi, after sleeping for so many days, it's time to wake up, Qiao Jin chuckled. His voice was hoarse, as if he had not drunk water for a long time. It was extremely dry. Dear, this chapter has ended. I wish you a happy reading. Big smiley face. Chapter 4597. The unconscious person on the bed suddenly grabbed Qiao Jin's hand with both hands. That strength was extremely strong. Qiao Jin's body suddenly stiffened. He looked at Yan Xiao Yi with ecstasy and opened his mouth, wanting to call her name. But when his gaze fell on her tightly closed eyes, it was as if a basin of cold water had been poured on him. He maintained his half-bowed posture in a daze and looked at Yan Xiao Yi's face without blinking. Cold sweat seeped out of the woman's forehead. Her brows were tightly knitted together and her body was still trembling slightly. Even if her eyes were tightly closed, one could see her pain at this moment. She didn't wake up. She didn't wake up. Qiao Jin quickly came back to his senses. Xiao Yi, what's wrong with you? Where are you feeling uncomfortable? I'll go and call Zishi now. He was about to move. Yan Xiao Yi's hand suddenly grabbed him tightly. Her body trembled even more violently. His lips were pale and wriggling as if he was trying to say something. Qiao Jin hurriedly turned around and held the woman's hands, bringing them to his lips and kissing them. I won't leave. Xiao Yi, I'm here. He held Yan Xiao Yi's hand as he carefully and gently pulled her into his embrace. He used his own warmth to dispel the coldness in her body at this moment. Ah Jin, vaguely, he seemed to hear the woman murmuring in a low voice. He looked at the woman's pained expression and slowly moved closer to his ears. The woman's pained, powerless and worried voice entered his ears. Ah Jin, I won't let anything happen to you. Ah Jin, don't be stained by dirty blood. I will protect you, Ah Jin. Ah Jin, the woman was muttering Qiao Jin's name while she was unconscious. Qiao Jin's body slightly stiffened. Finally, slowly, he hugged the girl. His lips covered the girl's cold lip. His hoarse voice was clear and low. I'm fine, I'm well protected by Xiao Yi. You, hurry up and get well, continue to protect me. Bang! A loud sound resounded in the courtyard. Then, the boundless profound waves pressed down. Numerous cracks rapidly appeared on the ground. The two of them, who were hugging each other in the courtyard, froze and quickly looked in the direction of the sound. He saw that on the walls of the courtyard, more than 20 black-clothed dark guards had gathered. In the sky, there were still a few flying magical beasts circling around. Huang Fuxing's expression changed. Not good. The palace of gloomy darkness has discovered our tracks. Quickly go tell Qiao Jin and Xiao Yi to leave. Gu Zishi nodded and glanced at the enemies surrounding them. With a solemn expression, she quickly rushed to Yan Xiao Yi's room. You're really not dead yet. A sharp voice came from outside. Then, the courtyard's gate was kicked open. A woman dressed in a luxurious brocade robe walked in. Gong Shizhu. Huang Fuxing frowned when he saw the man. Why are you here? This princess is naturally here to capture you. Gong Shizhu sneered as he scanned the courtyard. The dignified young master of the Huangfu clan is actually living in such a place? Aren't you afraid of lowering your social status? Huang Fuxing sized up Gong Shizhu. On the surface, the entire Heaven Realm was divided between the Ren clan and the imperial family. But in reality, the imperial family had long become the Ren clan's lackey. Unexpectedly, Gong Xiaozhu personally chased them to a remote town that was still a long distance away from the old city. Was it because of Ren Jianing's order? Dear, this chapter has ended. I wish you a happy reading. Big smiley face. Chapter 4598. Gong Xiaozhu seemed to have seen through his doubts and sneered. I knew you guys were here, so I came all the way here. Why are you touched? Huang Fu Xing's eyes darkened. In that case, the Palace of Darkness was absolutely certain that they were hiding here. How did the Palace of Darkness find out about their whereabouts? Suddenly, there was a commotion coming from the walls of the backyard. Then there was the sound of the collision of the mystic waves. Gong Xiaozhu's expression froze, and she quickly headed to the backyard. Huang Fu Xing also hurried to catch up. Backyard. Qiao Jin carried Yan Xiao Yi and was blocked by the dark guards in the backyard. The man's golden eyes seemed to be shining with a dazzling golden light as he looked coldly at the group of people in front of him. All of you, scram. Xiao Yi doesn't want to see me stained with blood. Don't force me to kill you guys. The dark guards blocked in front of him. They were afraid of the man's golden eyes. But as dark guards, they were not allowed to have any fear or dread. After Gong Xiaozhu rushed over, she looked at Qiao Jin's eyes and sneered. Young Master Huangfu, so what if you have the inherited golden eyes of the Huangfu family? Do you think you can defeat the thousands of troops of the imperial family? Moreover, there is no such thing as the Huangfu family anymore. All the people of the Huangfu family are dead. Do you still care about your eyes? Gong Xiaozhu's words caused Qiao Jin's eyes to quickly look in her direction. His gaze was cold, like an emotionless beast. The golden flowing light was sharp and cold. Gong Xiaozhu felt a cold wind blowing over her body. She shuddered and looked around her surroundings a few times. Seeing that there were only two pairs of lovers in front of her, her expression instantly turned ugly. Where is Ren Jianming? Where is he hiding? Huang Fu Xing frowned and was about to speak. Qiao Jin shook his head at him and stopped him. Then, his golden eyes looked coldly at Gong Xiaozhu. You want to know where Ren Jianming is? I can tell you. Gong Xiaozhu's eyes flashed with a trace of fire. Where is he? Withdraw everyone and I will tell you where he is. Qiao Jin said indifferently. Gong Xiaozhu. Impossible. Qiao Jin's thin lips curled up slightly, the coldness on his face becoming even more intense. Then you can forget about ever knowing where Ren Jianming is. Gong Xiaozhu's face turned red. His sinister eyes were filled with killing intent. Her fingers clenched tightly as she glared venomously at Qiao Jin. I want to see just how hard your bones can be. She took a step back and ordered, Do it? There's an order from the Ren family. Capture him alive. Yes. Countless profound practitioners in the surroundings swarmed into the courtyard. The chaotic footsteps caused the entire courtyard to tremble. Majestic profound waves spread out in the air. Huang Fu Xing blocked in front of Qiao Jin, took out his weapon and slashed forward. Qiao Jin, leave with Xiao Yi first. Qiao Jin stood there without moving. Hurry up and leave. Xiao Yi could not be injured again. Even if it's for Xiao Yi, quickly leave. Gu Zishi pushed Qiao Jin. Qiao Jin looked at the large number of profound practitioners in front of him. A thick aura pervaded the entire courtyard. His golden eyes flickered slightly. Then, he handed the person in his arms over to Gu Zishi. Take her away. Leave this to me. No. No. How can you be their match? Gu Zishi hugged Yan Xiao Yi and was stunned for a moment, her face instantly turning pale. Qiao Jin did not turn back. He took a large step forward and took about 3 steps. Suddenly, a dazzling golden light burst out from his body. Dear, this chapter has ended. I hope you enjoy reading. Big smiley face. Chapter 4599. Bang bang bang. The surrounding air suddenly exploded one by one. When the surrounding enemies were touched by the golden light, they were instantly killed. They actually exploded into minced meat. That tyrannical and powerful energy quickly spread in all directions. Under the profound light. The man shrouded in golden light had his robes fluttering in the profound wave, making a flapping sound. His scattered black hair also danced under the strong wind. It was like a beast that had been trapped for a long time had finally escaped. That kind of astonishment was enough to make one shudder. Xiao Jin, the man in front of him, made Huang Fuxing feel horrified. Looking at the back view, it was him. But the aura around him made one feel unfamiliar. Huang Fuxing recovered from the shock and quickly looked at Gu Zishi. Quickly leave with Xiao Yi. Xiao Jin and I will cover the rear. But, Gu Zishi's eyes were full of worry. With Xiao Jin here, don't worry, don't look down on our Huang Fu family bloodline. Huang Fuxing curled his lips at her. Suddenly, he stretched out his hand. He pulled the woman into his arms, bent down and kissed her on the lips. My source of energy. The corners of his lips curled up into a smile. When he let go of the woman, that pair of black eyes was covered with a layer of dark gold. Gu Zishi hugged Yan Xiao Yi tightly, her eyes staring at Huang Fuxing. She took a deep breath. Xiao Yi and I will wait for you to find us. After she finished speaking, she hugged Yan Xiao Yi and quickly turned around, rushing towards another corner. Someone wanted to stop them, but they were stopped by Huang Fuxing. A group of people were actually stopped by two people in the courtyard. Gong Shiju's expression immediately twisted and turned green. She suddenly drew out a long sword from the side and charged straight towards Xiao Jin's direction. Between her brows there was a sinister and terrifying look. What Huang Fu family? It's just a joke, so what if it's golden eyes? A joke is a joke. The long sword fell. Xiao Jin didn't even dodge. He directly raised his hand and caught the long sword that was stabbing towards him. Bang! There was a loud bang. The long sword collided with the golden light. The collision produced intense sparks. Endless waves surged wildly and spread out. The profound practitioners who were relatively close to him spat out mouthfuls of blood as their bodies were sent flying. Gong Shiju's eyes grew increasingly sinister. Unable to pull out her sword, she simply let go of it. There seemed to be some kind of black mist in her eyes, and the corners of her mouth curled up mockingly. Golden eyes. This princess will poke your eyes blind. Let's see what you can do then. Show off your golden eyes. Out of nowhere, she took out a dagger that emitted a black aura. It looked like a very blunt dagger. It was as if it couldn't cut through anything. When Xiao Jin's gaze came into contact with the dagger, his face slightly sunk. He let go of his sword and quickly retreated while shouting at Huang Fuxing, "Be careful of the dagger in her hand." It's too late. Gong Shiju grinned. He raised the dagger in his hand and wrapped it around Xiao Jin. This is something that Patriarch Ren specially gave me to deal with your Huang Fu family, Tong Ren. Now that you've lost your golden eyes, what power do you have to fight with me? Gong Shiju brandished her dagger. The black aura floated and continuously headed towards Xiao Jin's eyes. That black aura seemed to have its own consciousness. It was another attack from all directions without any blind spots. Xiao Jin took care of the black aura. Gong Shiju's attack had already swiftly slashed towards him. Bang! Suddenly, a piercing cold intent shot over from afar. Gong Shiju only felt something swaying in front of her. Her hand was pierced by a sharp object. Chapter 4600. Under Xiao Jin's golden eyes, a black scythe with an extremely complicated totem appeared. That was Xiao Yi's black scythe. Xiao Jin's pupils contracted. He grabbed the black scythe with one hand and quickly looked towards the direction where the black scythe was coming from. He saw Yan Xiao Yi, who was originally unconscious and was carried away by Gu Zishi, had already woken up. She placed one hand on Gu Zishi's shoulder, her body weak and powerless. But when she looked up, a piercingly cold light shot out from her beautiful eyes, filled with determination. Xiao Yi, it was a smile. She used the black scythe to block Gong Shiju's attack. Why did she come back? Xiao Jin's heart felt as if it was being strangled by something, causing him to feel as if even his breathing had been frozen. Why did she come back? He was afraid that she would be injured, that was why he let them leave first. He looked around at the ferocious and bloodthirsty profound practitioners around him. Qiao Jin's heart was beating rapidly. Almost without any hesitation, he grabbed the black scythe tightly and sprinted towards Yan Shaoyi's direction. Gong Xiazhu clutched her wrist, her face contorted in pain. She gritted her teeth as she glared at Qiao Jin's swiftly departing figure and roared in a terrifying rage. Want to leave? Not so easy. She used her other uninjured hand to grip the dagger tightly. The blunt and clumsy blade looked ordinary and unremarkable, but this was the only thing that could deal with the Huangfu family's golden eye. As long as she had this dagger, those two from the Huangfu family could only wait to be captured, and they still wanted to have a happy ending? She was going to torture another person to death in front of these two lovers. Gong Xiazhu's face contorted, her eyes filled with uncontrollable madness. She ignored her pierced hand and dashed towards Qiao Jin's back. Idiot! Huff, huff. Pay attention to your back, I'm fine. Yan Shaoyi panted heavily, as though she was trying her best to endure the pain. Her face grew increasingly pale. Shaoyi, you're not in a good condition now, stop talking. Gu Zishi could clearly feel how much Yan Shaoyi's delicate body was trembling as she hung on her. More and more weight was leaning on her. It was as if he wouldn't be able to hold on any longer. Yan Shaoyi shook her head as she watched Gu Zishi swiftly clear up the surrounding profound practitioners, before bringing her closer to Qiao Jin. It wasn't her who wanted to be a burden and didn't want to leave. Instead, Gong Xiazhu did not give them a chance to leave. There were even more profound practitioners surrounding the backyard. It was impossible for her and Gu Zishi to escape. Why not to return to the battlefield and fight alongside Qiao Jin? To be able to stay by your side, I'm willing to die. The low voice was soft and soundless. Even Gu Zishi, who was at a close distance, asked in confusion when she killed a profound practitioner in front of her, What? What did you say? Gu Zishi didn't hear it. But in front of him, not far away, the man who was getting closer and closer to her seemed to have sensed something. That pair of golden eyes stared at her unblinkingly. Like a ray of sunlight, it shone into Yan Shaoyi's heart. Qiao Jin's 5 fingers suddenly tightened. He let out a beast-like roar. Golden light burst forth. The majestic profound light, with a power that seemed to be able to destroy the heavens and earth, exploded in all directions. Tragic cries were quickly swallowed by the golden light. The surroundings had almost turned into a pile of ruins. Chapter 46:01. Shaoyi. Qiao Jin rushed in front of Yan Shaoyi and carried her down from Gu Zishi's shoulders. Yan Shaoyi leaned into Qiao Jin's embrace and smelled his scent. The empty place in her heart was filled up. Her breathing also became much calmer. Why are you so stupid? Why did you come back? Qiao Jin hugged Yan Shaoyi tightly, his tone full of heartache. If you get hurt again, what do you want me to do? Since Gong Xiazhu is here, he must have set up an inescapable trap. How can Zishi and I escape? Yan Shaoyi said softly, If I hadn't come, Gong Xiazhu's sword would have pierced your body. She took a deep breath and moved her lips with difficulty. See, I saved your life again. The woman's face was extremely pale. Even her words were barely audible. Qiao Jin's heart ached when he saw that. He hugged her tightly. It's you saved me again. What are you still in a daze for? Have you forgotten what Qing Luo told us earlier? Yan Shaoyi's consciousness started to dissipate. However, he still forced himself to continue, Don't be distracted on the battlefield. Qiao Jin's heart suddenly jolted. Shaoyi, don't sleep, don't sleep. You saved me, now watch me protect you. Open your eyes. Yan Shaoyi could only vaguely hear Qiao Jin calling her name. However, she could no longer hear what he was saying. My head feels heavy, so heavy she could not open her eyes. You still have the mood to be lovey-dovey here? All of you can go to hell. Gong Shiju's eyes were scarlet and filled with jealousy and hatred. Gong Shiju was holding a dagger. It actually sliced open the golden light emitting from Qiao Jin's body, cleaving out a path. Qiao Jin. Huang Fu Xing's dark golden pupils suddenly shrunk as he shouted sternly, "Your Huang Fu bloodline can't block Gong Shiju's dagger. Dodge it." Master, vaguely, in Yan Shaoyi's space of consciousness, there seemed to be someone calling her name. She struggled to open her eyes. He tried hard to gather his consciousness. Master, Qiao Jin is in danger. It was the black sickle blade. Yan Shaoyi's ears twitched. In her consciousness, the words, "Qiao Jin is in danger," kept repeating. Qiao Jin. Jin, at this moment, Yan Shaoyi's consciousness shot out a powerful willpower. Suddenly, she opened her eyes. His hand grasped the hilt of the black sickle blade. In the meantime, Gong Shiju held the dagger and swung it down. That ferocious face was filled with hysterical madness. "Fool!" Qiao Jin said coldly. He didn't notice Yan Shaoyi's awakening. The golden light at the bottom of his eyes was like a dazzling sun, emitting a resplendent brilliance. Boundless golden light. It was like a golden storm. The attack spread throughout the entire space. Qiao Jin's sleeves fluttered in the wind. But Yan Shaoyi gripped the black scythe tightly. An aura of death that came from hell emanated from the black scythe. Bang! The light of the black scythe merged with the golden light. It turned into a majestic and powerful profound radiance, and blocked in front of Gong Shiju. Shaoyi. Qiao Jin sensed Yan Shaoyi's power and lowered his head to look at the person in his arms. Profound waves surged, black gas and golden light intertwined. Yan Shaoyi's half-squinted beautiful eyes met the man's eyes in a daze. Something as thin as a cicada's wing was blown away in the strong wind. Yan Shaoyi's half-squinted beautiful eyes gradually widened little by little. Profound waves vibrated, and strong qi floated. The man's black hair bared his fangs and brandished his claws behind him. The golden light hit the man's face lightly. End of this chapter. Chapter 4602. He had a handsome face and fair skin. Between his brows, there was an awe-inspiring and inviolable nobility. Especially those eyes. Under the golden light, they shone brightly. Like the most dazzling jade in the world. The golden light was dazzling and beautiful. It was as gentle as jade, but it also carried an awe-inspiring majesty. That was what kind of face? Yan Shaoyi couldn't say what kind of feeling it was. Just in that instant, her heart seemed to have stopped. Just a glance. Yan Shaoyi could be sure. The man with this unfamiliar face was the man she deeply loved. Was this his real face under the mask? Qiao Jin didn't have extra time to care about the skin on his face. He called out Yan Shaoyi's name softly. His voice was a little breathless and heavy. "Don't use the power of the profound jade heart anymore. You need to rest well. Listen to me now." He said word by word, "Go to Huang Fu Xing's side with Zishi. I'll protect you after I'm done here." Yan Shaoyi gripped his clothes tightly. "Qiao Jin, I came back because I want to be together with you. Don't think of chasing me away." She could hear the slight tremble in Qiao Jin's voice. She could also feel that Qiao Jin's current situation wasn't right. She was afraid that once she left, Qiao Jin wouldn't be able to hold on. Now, both of them were the pillars of the other. The majestic and terrifying profound light swept along with the black qi of the golden light and the black scythe. It spread more and more violently. Dangerous and fatal. Gong Shiju was blocked outside. The sharp profound light was like a knife, cutting her skin. She gripped the dagger tightly, unwilling to give up easily. She stabbed the golden light in front of her again and again. Ren Jianying had said, every member of the Huangfu family used the power of the golden eyes. Once the power was used up, they would become a cripple. Especially, it was overly consuming the power of the golden eyes. So what if Qiao Jin had pure golden eyes? He used the golden eyes to release power that exceeded his body's capacity again and again. Sooner or later, he would collapse. The more he consumed, the more power he would use. The deeper the damage to him. Right now, they were just competing to see who could endure it. As long as she could endure longer than Qiao Jin. Then today, the winner would be her. That bitch from the Gu residence had kidnapped her big brother Ming and caused her imperial family to fall to such a state. She had to kidnap the person that slut cared about. Then, he would use these people to threaten that bitch. Qiao Jin, are you crazy? As a member of the Huangfu clan, Huangfu Xing naturally understood the reason behind it. His face turned pale, and he wanted to stop Qiao Jin. However, those people who couldn't deal with Qiao Jin had already changed targets, and were entangled with him and Guzishi. The entire courtyard had turned into a shuraba. Qiao Jin, I'm afraid I won't be able to hold on much longer. Crack. Suddenly, there was a crisp, shattering sound. Gong Shizhu laughed savagely. Qiao Jin, this princess wants to see how you're going to escape from this princess, while bringing along a cripple. The dagger in Gong Shiju's hand cut through the surrounding golden light. Hua! The golden light tore through the air and suddenly exploded. Gong Shizhu lunged forward like a madman. His mouth was even letting out a crazed and terrifying laughter. Qiao Jin. Yan Xiaoyi hugged Qiao Jin with both hands as her expression froze. She wanted to block in front of Qiao Jin. Her delicate body was forcefully pressed into Qiao Jin's embrace. Chapter 4603. You've already blocked it for me once. Do you want me to die if you do it again? A man's low and hoarse voice floated down from above. That warm and soft lips covered her forehead. Yan Xiaoyi's eyes suddenly reddened. Tears seeped out from the corner of her eyes. Golden light surged. It blended with Gong Shiju's approaching figure. In the blink of an eye, it was already in front of the two of them. Gong Shiju's eyes were filled with malevolence. She clenched the dagger tightly, carrying a terrifying aura, and stabbed towards Qiao Jin's back. Qiao Jin's fingers moved. Dark light wantonly. The golden light formed a huge vortex in front of him. Gong Shiju's dagger. The dagger was almost swallowed by the vortex. Gong Shiju's face was ferocious as she held the dagger tightly. Still want to resist? Do you think this princess doesn't know that your current strength has already reached the limit of what your body can bear? Her fingers moved towards the dagger. The dagger moved. Fresh blood smeared on the dagger. On the dagger. She poured all the dark energy in her body. Don't think of stopping this princess. All of you must die. All of you must die. Gong Shiju's throat was hoarse as she screamed crazily. The force of the collision between the two. The collision caused the golden vortex to spread a little. Qiao Jin's breathing tightened. He hugged Yan Xiaoyi's slender waist with one hand. No matter what, he must not let the person in his arms suffer any more harm. He had to hold on. TSK? You've only disappeared for a few days and the Palace of Darkness is already so arrogant? Suddenly, a clear and melodious voice came from the sky. That voice was filled with endless mockery and disdain. The moment that voice rang, Gong Xiaju was stunned on the spot. This voice was that voice, Ren. It was that voice. Genuine's voice. Gong Shiju's pupils constricted as she looked towards the direction of the voice, and when the few people who were fighting heard this voice, they were also stunned, until the shadow of a colossal creature approached from afar. They saw a huge nine-tailed fox swaying its 9 furry tails as it landed elegantly. Everyone saw a purple figure jump down from the back of the 9-tailed fox. Her purple robes fluttered in the wind, and her style was peerless. As soon as he appeared, this caused the entire courtyard to fall into a weird silence. Lord Di Zun, all the profound practitioners panicked. His gaze fell on the petite figure in the man's arms. The girl lazily nestled in the man's arms. There was an indifferent sneer on her beautiful face. She met everyone's gaze and smiled faintly. She looked around and finally fixed her gaze on Gong Shiju. Is there no one else in the Palace of Darkness? They actually sent a piece of trash like you to cause trouble? Jianren. Gong Xiaozhu glared at the girl in red with unconcealable resentment in her eyes. It really was her. That girl. She's back. Yiqing Luo landed on the ground from Dmo Xian's arms, the corners of her lips curled into a cold arc. Do you know the consequences of hurting my friend? Gong Xiaozhu's face sank and she took a few steps back. Yiqing Luo had no intention to stop her. She just smiled faintly and her voice was elegant. It's alright if you don't know because you will find out very soon. She let go of Dmo Xian's arm. Slowly, she walked towards Gong Shiju. Gong Xiaozhu was so shocked that she jumped up. Her hand gripped her dagger tightly. Her hand was trembling. You dare to touch me. The word hand had not even left her mouth. That young lady who was walking slowly. In a blink of an eye, she appeared in front of her. The young lady raised her hand and moved slightly. The golden light dispersed. The whirlpool disappeared. And Chapter 4604. Her fingers were icy cold, like a sharp blade, deeply embedded into Gong Xiaozhu's neck. Gong Xiaozhu was in so much pain that her entire body was twitching, her face was pale as she struggled with all her might. But the more she struggled, the stronger the force on her neck became. She could even feel that her legs were gradually leaving the ground. The suffocating pain assaulted her. Ugh! Ugh ugh! She twisted her body in pain. She could clearly hear the young lady's mocking sneer. Overestimating yourself, waste, how dare you touch my people? That tone was so cold that there was no fluctuation of emotions. Gong Xiaozhu felt her entire body was icy cold. The aura of death and despair made her eyes start to roll back. Until, when Gong Xiaozhu was still on her last breath, Yiqing Luo then threw her onto the ground. Gong Xiaozhu started coughing violently. She hadn't calmed down yet. A foot stepped on her wrist. Yiqing Luo stepped on her hand and slowly lowered her body, placing her elbow on her knee. Hearing Gong Xiaozhu's painful cries, Yiqing Luo picked up the dagger by the side. The blade was very blunt, as though it had rusted. Wisps of black qi lingered around the dagger. This dagger was targeted at the Huangfu family's Qingtong. The black qi on the dagger. It was extremely strange. But to ordinary people, it didn't have much effect. But once it came into contact with the Huangfu family's bloodline, that was to quickly swallow the Huangfu family's bloodline. Especially, the more orthodox the bloodline, the greater the impact on one's body. So right from the start, Gong Xiaozhu's target was Qiao Jin. Yiqing Luo's lips twitched. Where did this thing come from? Gong Xiaozhu screamed in pain, totally ignoring Yiqing Luo's words. Yiqing Luo's smile deepened, but it was covered with a layer of viciousness. Don't want to say? That's alright, even if you don't say, Wui also knows where this thing came from. She reversed the dagger and stabbed it into Gong Xiaozhu's body. The blunt blade was only able to pierce in with brute force. It was so painful that Gong Xiaozhu let out a heart-wrenching howl. Yiqing Luo picked her ears and gave him a fierce kick. Gong Xiaozhu's body rolled to Qiao Jin's feet like a piece of trash. Here, I'll leave it to you to play with. Qiao Jin carried Yan Xiaoyi as he stared at Yiqing Luo without blinking. Until Yiqing Luo spoke to him. Only then did he come back to his senses. His eyes suddenly lit up. Carrying Yan Xiaoyi, he rushed towards Yiqing Luo. She didn't even bother to take a look at Gong Xiaozhu who was on the ground. Qing Luo? You can save Xiaoyi, right? You can definitely save Xiaoyi, right? He lowered his head and looked at Yan Xiaoyi whose face was pale but she forced herself to open her eyes. Look at Xiaoyi, she doesn't seem to have a simple internal injury. Yiqing Luo received Yan Xiaoyi from his arms. He laid it flat on the ground. As she felt her pulse, she raised her head and stared straight at Qiao Jin. Speaking of this face of yours is actually quite good-looking, just a little worse than my Xian. Don't cover your face in future. Our group is filled with handsome men and beautiful ladies, so don't spoil our group's image. Xiao Jin. He didn't have the mood to discuss about his face, alright? TSK. Xiao Yi, you're too reckless. Yiqing Luo felt her pulse and clicked her tongue as she took out a bottle of medicinal pills from her arms and stuffed it into her mouth. You obviously know that your body is already in such a state, yet you still forcefully revolve your profound jade heart. Are you trying to self-destruct? End of this chapter. Chapter 4605. Yan Xiao Yi didn't say a word as she allowed Yiqing Luo to feed the medicine into her mouth. Xiao Jin, who was by the side, upon hearing this, went into a daze as he frantically knelt by Yan Xiao Yi's side, looking at her anxiously. Qing Luo, is it that Xiao Yi's body has a very serious internal injury? I knew it. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have let her forcefully circulate the power of the profound jade heart. Qing Luo, you must save Xiao Yi. Only you can save her. Xiao Jin seemed to be possessed by a demon, repeating these words non-stop from his mouth. His eyes were filled with fear and worry. Yiqing Luo, Yan Xiao Yi. He must be an idiot. Yiqing Luo stuffed the pill into Xiao Jin's hand and rolled her eyes at him, then she stood up and was about to leave. Xiao Jin pounced forward in panic as he hugged Yiqing Luo's thigh. Qing Luo. Don't go, don't go. Save Xiao Yi, you can definitely save her. Yiqing Luo raised her eyes and looked not too far away, at that man who was squinting his peach blossom eyes, looking at them with a smile which didn't look like a smile. She shuddered violently and retracted her leg. Xiao Jin, after you took off the human face, did your IQ drop as well? If you want a hug, hug your Xiao Yi tightly. After withdrawing his leg, he decisively ran towards Dmo Xian. Her big vinegar jar was about to be overturned. If he spoke a few more words with Xiao Jin, she reckoned that Xiao Jin was in danger. Concern leads to confusion. It was a mess. He was like a retard. Xiao Jin still wanted to pounce over. Huang Fuxing, who was next to him, pressed him back. Gu Zixi gently explained, "Don't be nervous. From what Luo said, Xiao Yi should be fine. If something really happened to Yan Xiao Yi, Yiqing Luo's attitude would absolutely not be as relaxed as it was now." Xiao Jin blankly hugged the pale-faced person in his arms. Really? Do you think Luo wouldn't be worried about Xiao Yi? Gu Zixi threw the question back. Of course I'm worried. It was a question that didn't require much thought. After blurting it out, Xiao Jin seemed to come back to his senses. Yes. Xiao Yi is fine, Xiao Yi is fine, he murmured and lowered his head, pressing his forehead against the woman's. Have a good rest. I'll be by your side. Gu Zixi looked at the two people hugging each other, stood up slowly, and walked to Huang Fuxing's side. How do you plan to deal with Gong Shizhu? Gu Zixi squinted her beautiful eyes and walked slowly to Gong Shizhu. That dagger should belong to the Palace of Darkness. Huang Fuxing carefully followed behind her, remaining vigilant. I can't believe that the Palace of Gloomy Abyss could actually take out something to target the Huang Fu family. Gu Zixi face darkened. Xing, I have a feeling that more dangerous things will happen later. The higher we climb, the more dangerous it will be. This is unavoidable. Huang Fuxing rubbed Gu Zixi's head. We have Luo's help now, but in the future, it'll be just the two of us. Gu Zixi turned around, put her arms around his neck, and lowered his head. She looked at Huang Fuxing sincerely and seriously, saying word by word, I will always be with you. While the two of them were talking. But they didn't discover that Gong Shizhu, who was originally lying on the ground twitching, suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes were filled with an insane jealousy. Latest update, no pop-up window, please. Chapter 4606. She jumped up from the ground with a whoosh. Following that, she stretched out her hand to her chest and grabbed that blunt knife that was buried in her body. With a violent tug, blood spurted out from her body. The smell of blood was thick and fishy. Gong Xiazhu didn't mind. She grabbed that bloody dagger and stabbed it towards Huang Fuxing's back. Go to hell! Go to hell! She screamed madly as her expression turned into madness. Her mental state was no longer normal. A black flowing light flashed past. The cold glint carried a strong murderous intent as it surged in all directions. By the time Gu Zishi sensed the danger, it was already too late to block in front of Huang Fuxing. Bam! Gong Xiaozhu pounced forward. In the next instant, it was as if it had been bounced off by something. She fell heavily onto the ground. This fall caused Gong Xiaozhu to spit out blood. The blood in her body flowed all over the ground. She almost fell into a state of dizziness. How could this be? How could this be? Why wasn't it Huang Fuxing who was stabbed by her with that dagger? Why was it her again? She was the one who got injured again. I said you're stupid, you're really stupid. Not too far away, a young lady's contemptuous voice was heard leisurely. Gong Xiaozhu's body trembled as she looked towards the direction of the voice. The blood was hazy. She saw the young girl in the red dress looking at her with a smile. Her eyes were filled with ridicule and ridicule. Since I dare to return that dagger to you. Naturally I've made full preparations. Yiqing Luo smiled lightly as her lips curled. I used the azure dew ring to set up a very simple barrier on the both of them. That dagger was only used to deal with the Huangfu family. But towards ordinary people and other forces, it had no effect at all. Gong Xiaozhu was already in a state of panic. She could only follow her instinct and stabbed the black dagger into Huang Fuxing's body. But the black dagger couldn't break the barrier of a divine relic. Even if it was the simplest barrier, that dagger couldn't even get near to Huang Fuxing and Qiao Jin. Gong Xiaozhu's throat was filled with blood, and she was so angry that she vomited blood. Gu Zishi was still in shock and protected Huang Fuxing behind her. Her face was still slightly pale as she stared fiercely at Gong Xiaozhu. Almost, just a little bit more. The dagger fell on Huang Fuxing's body. It was a dagger specifically targeted at the Huangfu family's bloodline. If it really pierced into Huang Fuxing's body, she didn't dare to think too deeply about it. A ruthless killing intent flashed across Gu Zishi's eyes. She lifted her leg and stomped on Gong Xiaozhu's chest. Blood immediately gushed out from the wound caused by the blunt knife. Huff, huff, huff. At this moment, Gong Xiaozhu couldn't even speak. Large mouthfuls of blood gushed out of his mouth. Little she. Huang Fuxing noticed Gu Zishi's intention and frowned slightly. Gu Zishi patted his hand lightly. Regardless of whether we killed Gong Xiaozhu or not, the royal family will not let us off. This kind of person will only be a scourge if we keep him. Originally, Yiqing Luo could easily kill Gong Xiaozhu, but she left Gong Xiaozhu with a breath of life. She wanted them to take revenge on their own. To vent this resentment, Gu Zishi raised that blunt knife and stabbed it into Gong Xiaozhu's neck without any hesitation. The blunt knife entered the skin. It was very difficult. Gong Xiaozhu was in extreme pain. However, Gu Zishi was ruthless. She directly killed Gong Xiaozhu. Chapter 4607. The moment Gong Xiaozhu died, the rest of the cultivators were easily dealt with. After a moment, Yiqing Luo led the few of them as they left this abandoned seventh courtyard. Not long after the few of them left, a red figure slowly walked into the courtyard. That man's expression was icy cold, without any emotions. His gaze was indifferent as he looked at the surroundings. The ground was filled with corpses as blood stained the ground. The air was filled with a pungent smell of blood. That man's brows creased tightly. A strange glint flashed past his icy cold eyes. We chased after them for thousands of miles but didn't see anyone at all. A clear female voice was heard from outside the courtyard. That lady's eyes stared intently at that man. They just left not too far away. If you want to chase after them, then go ahead. That man didn't say a word as he stood silently on the spot. His gaze stared at a certain spot without blinking. If Yiqing Luo was around, She would definitely sense the direction which that man was looking at. It was exactly where she was standing in the courtyard earlier. Exactly the same. She looked for a place to settle down not too far away. After Yi Qing Luo chased Xiao Jin out, she asked Gu Zishi to help Yan Xiao Yi clean up her body and conveniently applied medicine for the both of them. After she tidied up everything, Yi Qing Luo then let Xiao Jin in. Walking out of the room, Yi Qing Luo nestled into Dmo Xian's arms. Huang Fuxing also came out after changing his clothes. Do you have any news of Zhan? Yi Qing Luo pursed her lips. She didn't know if the current Long Yunzhan was in a conscious state or in a controlled state. To tell the truth, Yi Qing Luo hoped that he hadn't regained his consciousness. Otherwise to Long Yunzhan, if he knew that he had personally stabbed her. Probably. He was unable to walk out from the guilt. His state of mind could easily collapse. When she mentioned Long Yunzhan, that hand which was encircling her waist suddenly tightened. The man's frosty aura also grew heavier. Yi Qing Luo patted the back of his hand. Zhan hurt me, but it wasn't out of his own will. I didn't care about his body, and didn't notice that he had been controlled by the people from Secluded Palace, so you can't blame him. Saying that, Yi Qing Luo lowered her eyelids. Moreover, Zhan is my contracted human dragon. How could he possibly do anything to hurt me? The man sneered. Contract. Huang Fuxing seemed to have thought of something. There is a contract between the two of you. You should be able to sense his existence, right? Or do you want to try calling him? Yi Qing Luo shook her head. I've tried. It seems like the connection between me and him has been cut off. I can't even sense his existence in my spiritual contract. It was as if the contract between her and Long Yunzhan had been removed. But, like their blood contract, it was impossible for the contract to be rescinded, unless the one who was contracted was dead. This thought made Yi Qing Luo's face turn pale with a swoosh. She quickly shook her head. No, that's impossible, even in death. As the contractor, she would definitely be able to sense it. Secluded Palace has already thought of a way to deal with you, so naturally they will use a special method to cut off the connection between you and that fellow. The man behind her spoke in a chilly tone. His large palm covered the young lady's head. Don't let your imagination run wild. Yi Qing Luo's head leaned into Dmo Xian's arms. I'm just worried. Moreover, Zi Qing had run off to chase after Zhan. Over at Secluded Palace, they can't wait to capture everyone around me. No pop-up window. Chapter 4608. Life and death are fated. This is her own choice. Even if she dies, it has nothing to do with you. Dmo Xian's slender jade-like fingers lifted her chin. Her half-squinted eyes were overflowing with beauty, projecting a faint light. Yi Qing Luo could tell that he was angry. It was a fact that Long Yunzhan had injured her. To Dmo Xian, this was an unforgivable matter. Yi Qing Luo also raised her hand and rubbed Dmo Xian's face. Don't be angry. When they come back, I'll make them kneel down and apologize to me. I'll even take the whip and whip them harshly to teach them a lesson, to vent my anger, all right? Those words, which sounded like she was coaxing a child, made Dmo Xian's eyes sink even deeper. The hand he used to pinch her chin used a little force to pull the girl closer. The man's handsome face was deeply imprinted in the girl's eyes. His thin lips moved closer to her ear. The warm air seemed to be able to soak people. It's useless to say such unrealistic things. The man's deep and mellow voice faintly entered Yi Qing Luo's ears. Inexplicably, there was a hint of temptation. Yi Qing Luo's face heated up slightly, even her body started to heat up. If you want me to let him go, it's not impossible. As he continued, his voice grew softer and softer. Everything depends on you. Yi Qing Luo. She fiercely pushed Dmo Xian's chest away and glared at him with a blushing face. This man, she really didn't care about the occasion, saying such ambiguous words. Cough, Huang Fuxing stood up awkwardly. Everyone is tired. We're finally safe. Why don't we go back and have a good rest? We'll look for Brother Long tomorrow. Yiqing Luo nodded her head. These few days, she was almost crippled by Gu Jingyu. He had a good rest. However, Huang Fusheng and the others must be on tenterhooks these few days. In addition, Yan Xiaoyi was injured. He had experienced another battle where he almost lost his life. He hadn't rested for a long time. It was indeed time for a good rest. Yiqing Luo nodded and let the both of them rest. However, there was clearly something wrong with the look in their eyes when they left, looking at her and Dmo Xian blatantly. His eyes were full of undisguised ambiguity. Yiqing Luo, they must have misunderstood something, right? He stayed in the new courtyard for 2 days. Yiqing Luo specially looked for a place near the courtyard which Gong Xiazhu was looking for. He could also go ask around and pay attention to whether or not anyone from the Dark Abyss Palace came to ask for news. But 2 days passed. It wasn't just the Palace of Gloomy Darkness that didn't send anyone to investigate. Even the commoners who lived nearby did not seem to notice what was happening in the courtyard. Everything was calm. It gave Yiqing Luo a feeling of the calm before the storm. These 2 days, Huang Fusheng and the other 3 stayed in the courtyard to recuperate. The barbaric Blood Bone King and her, as well as Ah Xian, were nearby, searching for traces of Long Yunzhan's whereabouts. At the same time, he inquired about the recent situation of the Heaven Realm. Everything was as Yiqing Luo had expected. After Ren Jianying took control of the Ren family, she slowly gained control of the royal family. The current royal family could only be regarded as a puppet. Ren Jianying needed a justifiable reason to unify the Heaven Realm and become the new sovereign of the Heaven Realm. But Ren Jianying had not given up on searching for Ren Jianming's whereabouts. As though she didn't want to kill Ren Jianming. Her position as the sovereign of the Heaven Realm would not be stable no matter what. Chapter 4609. Thinking of Ren Jianming. Yiqing Luo then thought of old man Tsang, who was lying on the ice bed, unable to regain consciousness. She clenched her fists as she sighed softly. There were still many things that she needed to do. After Yan Xiaoyi's body had recovered a little, then they would leave this courtyard and head directly to the old city. If she faced Ren Jianying head-on, then there was a possibility to force out the mastermind of Secluded Palace. In the room, Yan Xiaoyi stared blankly at the man who was busy in the room. That handsome face swayed in front of her eyes. Familiar, yet unfamiliar. What are you looking at? There's nothing on my face. Qiao Jin looked at her fixed gaze as his thin lips curled upwards, smiling lightly as he sat by her bedside. He stretched out his hand and pinched her slightly cold hand, holding it in his own. Why is your hand so cold? Are you feeling unwell somewhere? I'm fine. Yan Xiaoyi lowered her eyes to look at that big palm. Qing Luo's medicinal pill has the best effect. My body is much better now, perhaps tomorrow I might be able to get up. That wide and thick palm held her hand tightly. Between his nostrils was a man's breath. It was a familiar warmth. She sighed softly as she slowly raised her head. Her fair and slender fingers touched the corners of Qiao Jin's eyes as she said with heartache, "Look, you have dark circles under your eyes." Since she was injured, Qiao Jin had been taking care of her without any care. She practically didn't sleep much. That handsome face, that patch of greenish-black under the corners of his eyes, was extremely obvious. The main reason why Qiao Jin's human skin fell off. It was because he hadn't tormented his own face for several days. And he didn't bother to adjust that human skin. Human skin was after all human skin, a fake face. It had not been taken care of for a long time. Naturally problems would arise. Later on, he released the Huangfu family's bloodline energy. That human skin was shaken off. Qiao Jin didn't mind as he held her hand in his palm once again. I'm fine. But you still want to help me when you're injured, you really don't take care of yourself. Yan Xiaoyi's face blushed slightly as she harumphed. Who asked you to abandon me? You're so good looking, what if someone else abducts you? When Qiao Jin heard that, He couldn't help but laugh lightly. He bent down and looked her in the eye. His slender fingers gently hooked her nose. His fingertips were warm, as if he had swept through a ball of fire. The man's breath sprayed on her face. Now that he had restored his appearance, his smile made the woman on the bed blush and her heart race. In the instant that Xiao Jin's face came closer and closer, Yan Xiaoyi suddenly pushed Xiao Jin away and covered her face with the blanket. What happened to Xiaoyi? Are you feeling unwell? Xiao Jin immediately panicked and quickly stood up. He nervously stood by the bed. He wanted to touch the person on the bed, but he was afraid that his touch would hurt her. You wait for me, I'll go look for Qing Luo, I'll go. Just as Xiao Jin turned around, a hand reached out from under the blanket and grabbed the hem of Xiao Jin's clothes. Idiot! What did you say? Xiao Jin didn't hear clearly. I said you're a fool. Yan Xiaoyi snuggled under the blanket and slowly popped her head out. It's not that I'm not feeling well. Who asked you to seduce me just now, originally, that ordinary and unremarkable face? Because it was him. So he was able to easily tug at her heartstrings. Today, he had revealed his true face. That kind of handsome as a painting. She couldn't control her own heart. Xiao Jin went into a blank for a moment and immediately reacted as his eyes were filled with a clear smile. Chapter 46:10. You have been charmed by me? His thin lips were frivolous and his smile was very nice. Xiao Jin said that and Yan Xiaoyi became even more shy as she buried herself into the blanket. The man by the bed smiled even more happily. His hand gently caressed his face. Between his brows there was an unconcealable smile. Then, his body moved forward. He propped himself up on the woman's body. He looked at the woman under the quilt, whose face was already red. Do you like my face? Yan Xiaoyi was hit by the bed at such a close distance, her eyes drifted. You look so good and you still seduce me, how can I not like you? Before she could finish her words, the man had already bent down and kissed her lips. Silly girl, this is called seduction. Yan Xiaoyi looked at the man in front of her in a daze, her eyes were filled with glistening tears. It was also an unconcealable expression. Her lips moved slightly as she mumbled, I am a patient, you are not allowed to seduce me. Xiao Jin laughed softly as he pulled the woman into his arms. No matter how I do it, I will not disregard your body. He hugged her in his arms as his face was close to the woman's burning hot face. His low and hoarse voice was clearly transmitted into the woman's ears. Xiaoyi, it's really great that you like my face. They rested for another 2 days. Blood-bone barbaric king who had disappeared for 2 days returned with a grave expression. Qing Luo, something happened outside. Yi Qing Luo had a look of understanding. The Ren family is planning to attack the Earth realm, right? Yes. Blood-bone barbaric king wasn't surprised that Yi Qing Luo knew about it as he nodded. Looks like Ren Jianying's ambition is not only to be the emperor of Heaven Realm. Of course. Yi Qing Luo smiled slightly. She is a woman who wants to rule over the upper realm, just a mere Heaven Realm. How can it satisfy her ambition? Does she have such great ability? Blood-bone barbaric king frowned. The difference between Heaven Realm and God Realm is not small. Even if she breaks through the laws of Heaven Way, it's not possible to take down God Realm. Yi Qing Luo smiled as she shook her head, but Ren Jianying doesn't believe in the existence of the God Realm. After so many years, the realm of the gods has already become a legend. In the past few hundred years, no one has ever seen anyone from the realm of the gods. Ren Jianying might not know, but it's impossible for the people behind the scenes of Gloomy Palace not to know. The barbaric blood-bone king's eyes darkened. I can feel that. The person behind the Nether Palace is definitely from the God realm. Yi Qing Luo sat down with a calm expression on her face. Of course he knows, but he won't say anything. Yi Qing Luo poured a cup of warm tea and pushed it in front of blood-bone barbaric king as she calmly continued. Ren Jianying thought that she had made use of the Palace of Darkness, but in actual fact, The mastermind behind the Palace of Darkness was making use of her to test our attitude. The target of the people behind the Dark Palace has always been me. So, he's forcing me to make a move. Once I make a move, he will have the opportunity to take advantage of me. Yi Qing Luo's hand gently pressed on her heart. The mastermind behind the Palace of Darkness wants to make use of my Divine Phoenix Profound Jade Heart's body to nourish the Divine Phoenix Profound Jade Heart and provide it to him. Or perhaps he wants to obtain the secret of the Emperor of Gods from me. She leaned back on the chair, raised her head and took a deep breath. This battle, no matter if we stop it or not, to the mastermind behind the Palace of Darkness, it's a profitable business. Chapter 46:11. No. The Bloodbone Barbaric King looked at her seriously. The Palace of Darkness has already made your choice. Yi Qing Luo raised her brows. There's the aura of the Azure Water Divine artifact over at the Ren clan. The Blood-Bone Barbarian King's eyes darkened. Feng Ji's vast water divine weapon was forged with my help. I'm not unfamiliar with the aura of the vast water divine weapon. Yi Qing Luo's expression congealed as she abruptly sat up straight. Azure Water Artifact. The people behind Gloomy Palace know that you are collecting Azure Water divine weapons. The Bloodbone Barbaric Monarch said. The Palace of Gloomy Abyss gave the Azure Water divine weapon to Ren Jianying in order to lure you out to fight with Ren Jianying over the Azure Water divine weapon. Once they snatched it, it was bound to become a way to stop Ren Jianying's ambition. Yi Qing Luo's eyelids drooped down slightly as her eyes sunk, faintly flickering with a treacherous cold glint. It's not as simple as luring me out. If she remembered correctly, previously, the Dark Forces had also wanted to collect the Azure Water Divine artifact. At first, she thought that the Dark Forces wanted to awaken the King of Darkness. Later, he discovered that the Azure Water Divine armament had another use. After that, Gloomy Palace also began to collect vast water divine weapons. However, every time they discovered the vast water divine artifact. So she was the first to get it. Furthermore, there was one point which made Yi Qing Luo a little strange. Logically speaking, before Mother passed away, she should have sealed the 5 pieces of the vast water divine artifact set separately. Without the bloodline of a god emperor, the seal could not be removed. He probably couldn't obtain the vast water divine artifact. How did the Nether Palace obtain the vast water divine weapon? Yi Qing Luo clenched her fists tightly. No matter what tricks the Palace of Secluded Darkness is trying to play this time round, I must make a trip over. The Bloodbone Barbarian King did not say anything to stop him. For him, the vast water divine tool belonged to Feng Go. That was left for Qing Luo. Falling into the hands of others, especially the hands of those who had schemed against him, how could he be willing? Yi Qing Luo told everyone about her decision. He heard that Ren Jianying was preparing to attack the Earth domain. Huang Fusheng and Gu Zixi's expressions changed drastically. After asking about Yan Xiaoyi's condition and confirming that there were no problems, the group of people immediately set off in a hurry for the direction of the Old City. Old City. A figure shrouded in a black cloak was quietly hiding in the dark, listening to the discussions of the people in the Old City. Now, the Ren family was in power. He was just short of directly addressing Patriarch Ren as the Emperor. The people were naturally praising Ren Jianying. The man in the black cloak listened to all kinds of praises in the dark. He almost crushed the stone beside him. Suddenly, a small hand rested on that person's shoulder from behind. The man was startled and grabbed the little hand. The owner of the small hand cried out in pain. Only then did the black-cloaked man see clearly that behind him was a 13 or 14-year-old girl. Her face was covered in dirt, but her eyes were extremely bright. At this moment, it was staring at him unblinkingly. "You! What are you doing behind me?" The black-cloaked man let go of the little girl's hand and asked with a frown. "Why are you squatting here sneakily?" The little girl raised her neck in defiance. The black-cloaked man ignored her and continued walking forward. The little girl skipped to keep up with his footsteps. "Don't go, I know what you're doing. You're eavesdropping, right? What news do you want to know? Ask me. I know everything." The black-cloaked man's footsteps halted as he looked suspiciously at the girl. Latest update, no pop-up window, please. Chapter 46:12. What do you know? The black-cloaked man's face was filled with suspicion. The little girl smiled with her bright eyes. "I squatted at the old city gate and asked for food for a few days. No news could escape my ears." The black-cloaked man was silent for a moment. He pulled the little girl to the corner of the wall. "Then tell me, what news have you heard in these few days?" The little girl tilted her head and extended her hand towards him. "If you want to ask for information, you have to give me the crystals first." The black-cloaked man narrowed his eyes. "How can I be sure that the information you gave me is true?" The little girl was silent for a while before she unwillingly pouted her lips. Then, "I will reveal a little bit of information to you." The little girl moved closer. "I heard, 2 days ago, Patriarch Ren sent the Imperial family to kill the eldest miss of the Gu family." The black-cloaked man's body suddenly stiffened. "Why to kill the eldest miss of the Gu family?" "I heard that the eldest miss of the Gu family stole an extremely precious item from the Ren family." The little girl rubbed her chin and said, "It sounds like it is related to the Ren family's lifeline." The black-cloaked man's fingers under the black cloak unconsciously clenched into fists. He bit his lips. "Then, was the eldest miss of the Gu family caught?" "Of course." The little girl was about to reply. She suddenly thought of something and stopped speaking. She extended her hand towards the black-cloaked man. "I have already told you so much information. Shouldn't you give me the crystals?" The black-cloaked man took out a bag of crystals from his sleeve. "Speak quickly. How is the eldest miss of the Gu family?" The little girl's eyes lit up as she received the bag of crystals. She touched the bag with one hand and took out the crystals with the other. "Of course she is fine. I heard that the people that were sent over are all dead. Even the imperial family's Princess Xia Zhu died in the hands of the eldest miss of the Gu family." The black-cloaked man seemed to be relieved. "Then, Ren, Patriarch Ren, do you want to continue to kill the eldest miss of the Gu family? Why are you so interested in the eldest miss of the Gu family?" The little girl stuffed the crystals back into the bag. "Don't tell me you like the eldest miss of the Gu family?" The black-cloaked man was stunned. He hurriedly shook his head and said, No, I'm just curious. Why is Patriarch Ren, who is about to become the ruler of the Heaven Realm, still targeting the young miss of the Gu clan? Didn't I say it already? It's because the first miss of the Gu residence stole something that is related to the Ren family's lifeline. The Ren family wants to take it back." The little girl had an expression that said, "Are you stupid?" Then he said, "Seeing that you've given me enough spar, I'll tell you another piece of news." The little girl lowered her voice and spoke mysteriously. "Patriarch Ren seems to have a way to deal with the first miss of the Gu clan. Right now, he no longer plans to kill the first miss of the Gu clan. Instead, he's waiting for the first miss of the Gu clan to come knocking on his door." The black-cloaked person's pupils constricted. "You mean, the young miss of the Gu clan is returning to the old city? I don't know what method Patriarch Ren used, but I've heard that the young lady of the Gu clan is already on her way to the old city." The little girl patted his shoulder. "If you really like the first young miss of the Gu residence, then grab this chance." The black-cloaked person's breathing froze for a moment. He then took out a bag of coins from his sleeves. "Let me ask you another question. Do you know what method Patriarch Ren used to make the young miss of the Gu clan come to the old city of her own accord?" The little girl was about to speak. Suddenly, her pupils widened and she stared in disbelief behind him. Behind you." Chapter 46:13. "What?" The black-cloaked man's eyes darkened, and the muscles all over his body began to tighten at this moment. He didn't look back. He wanted to run past the little girl. But just as he moved, A fair hand pressed on his shoulder. It seemed to be gentle. In fact, that fair hand pressed the black-cloaked man so hard that he couldn't even struggle. "My good brother, I've finally found you." The soft and graceful voice of a woman came from behind him. In the ears of the black-cloaked man, it was as if death had come. "What question do you want to ask me?" "Just come and ask me personally. I will definitely tell you everything I know." The woman chuckled softly. The black-cloaked man's body tightened even more. His entire face seemed to be covered with a layer of haze. There was no fear, no fear. "Ren. Patriarch Ren." The little girl stared behind the black-cloaked man, unable to believe her eyes. She actually saw the legendary strong woman. "Ren Jianying. What did Patriarch Ren just say? Her good brother? Brother?" The little girl blinked her bright eyes and looked at the black-cloaked man in front of her in astonishment. Before she could speak, she heard Ren Jianying's extremely indifferent voice. "Take her away." Soon, two figures rushed behind the little girl and tried to grab her. "Ren Jianying!" The black-cloaked man shouted and suddenly reached out to grab the little girl. He moved his body. This time, he easily broke free from Ren Jianying's hand on his shoulder. He pushed the little girl behind him and leaned his back against the wall. He turned his head and looked at the woman who was high above him warily. This movement also caused the black-cloaked man's cloak to fall off his head. A handsome face was revealed. He looked a little embarrassed and haggard. Under his eyelids there was still a very dark circle. That face, wasn't it the long disappeared Ren Jianming? Jianming. Ren Jianying's red lips curled up slightly and she called his name softly. "I haven't seen you for a long time. Don't you even have the most basic etiquette?" Ren Jianming couldn't hide his disgust. "Ren Jianying, don't think that I don't know what you want to do." "So what if I know?" Ren Jianying smiled contemptuously. She slowly raised her palm and tightened her fingers one by one. "The entire heaven realm is under my control. Even if you know what I want to do, so what?" Ren Jianying walked towards him with a smile. "My good brother, after being out for so long, it's time for you to come home with me." Ren Jianying blocked the little girl behind him and slowly retreated. His expression was solemn and cold. His eyes were filled with hatred and coldness. "Bah! Don't you dare!" He swept his gaze across Ren Jianying and then looked at the two guards who were surrounding her. He squeezed the little girl's hand. "Run as far as you can later." "Huh!" The little girl was still in a daze, unable to react at all. All of a sudden, she was flung away by a powerful impact. The man's anxious roar resounded in his ears. "Run! Run!" The little girl subconsciously broke into a run. Vaguely, he seemed to see the two guards beside the Ren family head chasing after him. However, they were directly stopped by the man. However, it was obvious that the man was no match for the two hidden guards. In just a moment, he was knocked to the ground by the two hidden guards. However, the man still forced himself to get up and hugged the legs of the two guards. It was as if he was buying time for her to escape. The little girl's running footsteps suddenly stopped. Latest update: no pop-up window, please. Chapter 46:14. Alright, since you don't want anything to happen to that little girl, as your elder sister, I will naturally fulfill your wish. Ren Jianying looked at Ren Jianming, who fell to the ground in a sorry state. Back then, he was a playboy with great talent. At this moment, he was knocked to the ground by two secret guards. Ren Jianying's heart suddenly felt carefree. Her red lips smiled even more, and her eyebrows were full of pride belonging to a superior. "I have been waiting for you for a long time. You are finally willing to show up. Let's go. I will take you home." Ren Jianying walked proudly to the place where Ren Jianming was lying. She slowly bent down and was about to reach out and pull Ren Jianming up. Suddenly, a gust of cold wind blew. Ren Jianying's eyes moved and she quickly retreated. However, there was still something that pierced the skin on her face. There was some slight tingling. Ren Jianying raised her head and reached out to touch her cheek. But there was no wound. It was as if the stinging pain just now was just an illusion. Ren Jianying frowned. Her intuition told her that something was wrong. But she couldn't feel what was wrong. She narrowed her beautiful eyes dangerously and looked in the direction of the cold wind. She saw a little girl who looked 13 or 14 years old standing there with a fierce face, glaring at her. "I'm warning you, let him go. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude." The little girl's threat was not powerful at all. Ren Jianying frowned and glanced at the two secret guards. The guards quickly walked toward the little girl. "Why are you back again?" When Ren Jianying saw the little girl, his face suddenly turned pale. "Didn't I tell you to leave? You were beaten by them because you wanted me to run away," the little girl explained seriously. "I can't leave you behind and run away." As she spoke, the two guards had already rushed in front of her. However, the little girl's speed was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, she escaped from the attack range of the two guards. She was still approaching Ren Jianying. Ren Jianying listened to the little girl's naive words and didn't know whether to be touched or helpless. He looked at the little girl who had come to his side and lifted him up with an indescribable feeling in his heart. "Are you stupid? If I didn't ask you questions, you wouldn't have been dragged into this." Ren Jianying's breathing was slightly shaky. "You don't owe me anything. If you have the ability, then leave this place quickly." "I took your crystal stones." The little girl lifted him up. "Do you know who the person in front of you is?" Ren Jianying tried his best not to put all his weight on the little girl. "Patriarch Ren." The little girl tilted her head, her face filled with innocence and ignorance. "I know what you want to say, but I have professional ethics. You gave me the crystal, and you want to sacrifice yourself to protect me, so even if you're the Ren family head, I can't leave you behind." This little girl, why was she so naive? Ren Jianying didn't know what to say. He just sighed softly. "This little girl is really affectionate." Ren Jianying looked at the two people in front of her, her eyes full of mockery. "Since that's the case, I'll fulfill your wish. I will never separate the two of you." The curve of her red lips deepened. A burst of profound energy shot out from her fingertip. "You can't blame me for being too heavy-handed if you're so disobedient." Latest update, no pop-up window please. Chapter 46:15. Don't move. The little girl widened her bright eyes and said solemnly, "Don't use your profound energy anymore." Ren Jianying chuckled softly. "Little girl, are you threatening me?" "Threat?" The little girl thought about it seriously, then shook her head solemnly. "No, I'm warning you." "Warning?" Ren Jianying seemed to have heard something extremely funny. "You dare to warn me?" "Yes." The little girl continued solemnly, "I'm warning you very seriously. If you don't listen to me, you'll be the one suffering." The coldness and ridicule in Ren Jianying's eyes became even more intense, and the profound light on her fingertips became even more intense. "Is that so? Then I'd like to see how you're going to make me suffer." She raised her hand. Profound waves pervaded the surroundings. The air seemed to have solidified. Ren Jianying blocked the little girl with one hand and pressed his chest with the other. His face turned pale under the oppressive atmosphere. "Don't be nervous, she can't hurt us." The little girl patted Ren Jianying's hand. "Believe me, I promise nothing will happen." For some reason, after hearing the little girl's words, his oppressive and heavy heart seemed to relax all of a sudden. His heart also calmed down. Inexplicably, he wanted to believe what the little girl said. Her promise was full of power. Obviously, the other party was just a 13 or 14-year-old girl who looked extremely innocent. Just as Ren Jianying's profound waves turned into sharp blades and slashed towards Ren Jianying. Suddenly, a hurricane surged in the sky. The surroundings were quickly covered by another terrifying aura. Immediately after, Ren Jianying's body was sent flying out of thin air and fell heavily to the ground. Ren Jianying slammed into the wall and spat out blood. "Who is it?" Ren Jianying wiped off the blood at the corner of her lips with force. Her malicious gaze swept around angrily. What kind of power was this? It actually appeared out of thin air. She didn't even have a chance to react. Now, in the entire heaven realm, who else could fight with her? Who was it? Miss Wren. No, now I should call you Patriarch Wren. A clear and sweet voice floated down. Immediately after, a figure that looked like a blazing flame pushed the hurricane aside and slowly walked over. The girl's footsteps were light and slow. Her dress fluttered along with her steps, like a blooming rose, bright and beautiful, under the whirlpool-like hurricane that filled the sky. The young girl was like a pure and holy fairy of the ninth heaven. She descended from the sky, causing people to be unable to shift their gazes away, but they also didn't dare to meet her gaze. You took advantage of my absence to bully my people. Since when did Miss Wren like to do such filthy things? Ren Jianying heard the contemptuous and mocking voice. Ren Jianying's delicate body began to tremble slightly. His malicious eyes stared unblinkingly at the young girl who was approaching. His 5 fingers curled up one by one. There was hatred and panic in his eyes. But there was also an imperceptible excitement. Yes, excitement. Miss Gu, no. I should call you Yiqing Luo. Ren Jianying slowly stood up from the ground. Even though she was sent flying in a sorry state, she still maintained her noble elegance as she slightly raised her fair neck and spoke arrogantly. You indeed appeared. Patriarch Ren and secluded palaces' painstaking arrangements, isn't it to lure me out? Yiqing Luo's lips curled as her expression was calm and unperturbed. I'm doing as you wish. Patriarch Ren should be happy. Chapter 46:16. Happy, this patriarch is extremely happy. Ren Jianying stared at Yiqing Luo, as she squeezed out each and every word from between her teeth. Yiqing Luo's smile deepened, but Patriarch Ren doesn't look happy? Alright, this patriarch is indeed unhappy. Ren Jianying's eyes were icy cold, as though there were raging waves in her eyes. The moment you came, you stopped this patriarch and my brother's reunion. No matter who it is, they would not be happy, right? Yiqing Luo raised one finger, as she shook her hand. No, 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 I'm very happy. She smiled as her eyes curved, as she walked to Ren Jianying's side. Didn't I tell you to wait for me to come back? Why did you run out alone? Her suspicious gaze as she looked at the young lady behind him. Could it be because of this young lady? No, no. Ren Jianying anxiously opened his mouth to explain. She and I just got to know each other. She sells information. Yiqing Luo's brows rose. Just got to know each other, but for you, she's not afraid of Ren Jianying's threat. She's quite a bold young lady. As she said that, she looked at the young lady with admiration. The young lady's eyes widened, as she stared at Yiqing Luo without blinking. Hearing Yiqing Luo's praise, the little face turned red. I'm just doing my duty. Not as good as what you said. That look made Yiqing Luo want to rub her furry head. Young lady, why were you so sure that Patriarch Ren wouldn't be able to hurt you? Yiqing Luo pushed Ren Jianying aside, as she hooked the young lady into her arms. This young lady looked very innocent, not like someone who would do things to scare others. The young lady must have her reasons for saying that. Furthermore, Yiqing Luo's peripheral vision glanced at Ren Jianying as a glint flashed past her eyes. If she didn't see wrongly, Ren Jianying's condition was not right, especially earlier when she released her profound energy. She easily broke through Ren Jianying's attack. This wasn't like Ren Jianying's condition. I'm not called young lady, I'm Miao Xianxian. When the young lady saw Yiqing Luo's devastatingly beautiful face at such a close distance, a sliver of infatuation flashed past her eyes. He even stuttered when he spoke. The infatuation in the little girl's eyes. It wasn't a disgusting obsession, but from the bottom of his heart, he had taken a liking to her face. Alright, this little girl was also a fan of looks. Yiqing Luo pinched her cheek. Meow? Big sister, you can call me Xianxian. The little girl, Miao Xuanxuan's eyes were sparkling with happiness. Good girl, Xian. Yi Qing Luo gave a meaningful smile. I roughly understand why you're so certain that she won't hurt you. Miao Xuanxuan's eyes shone even brighter. Just like a resplendent star in the night sky. Big sister, you found out? Yi Qing Luo nodded smilingly. What are you talking about? Ren Jianying's face darkened as she listened to their conversation. Do you think that you can scare me just by acting mysterious? Yi Qing Luo narrowed her long and narrow eyes as she tried to provoke her with a smile that didn't look like a smile. We don't talk in riddles, so let me tell you the answer personally. She pushed Miao Xianxian into Ren Jiaming's arms. Immediately after, she leapt up. The glower flame fan on her fingertips opened up, sweeping across a large area of raging flames. A swoosh sound was heard. The profound rays were like scattered flowers, as it attacked towards Ren Jianying. She struck when she said she would, without any hesitation. Chapter 46:17. Ren Jianying sneered, courting death. She raised her palm to counterattack. Full of confidence, but just as her palm met Yi Qing Luo's profound ray, she sensed that something was amiss. Her eyes widened in terror. She wanted to withdraw her hand to evade, but her body couldn't react in time. With a bam, the blazing red ray, majestic and powerful, directly broke through Ren Jianying's palm wind, falling onto Ren Jianying's body. Ren Jianying's body flew out from the impact, crashing heavily onto the wall. Cough. Cough cough. She coughed out a large mouthful of blood, both her hands propped against the wall. Her body was weak and powerless. She raised her head, her eyes staring venomously at Yi Qing Luo. What did you do to me? Ren Jianying's heart was filled with terror. When she made her move, she realized that her profound energy was totally unable to gather, unable to be transferred as she wished. No. To be more accurate, it was her profound energy that was draining away bit by bit. Ren Jianying's eyes revealed a chilly glint, as she gritted her teeth and stared at Yi Qing Luo. She remembered it clearly. Yi Qing Luo was a poison expert. This must be Yi Qing Luo's doing. Yi Qing Luo blinked her eyes as she floated down from midair. She shook her head innocently. I didn't do anything to you, Patriarch Ren, don't malign a good person. It must be you. It must be you. Ren Jianying's fingers were clenched tightly, as her internal organs had been shaken by that wave of profound energy earlier, and were all injured. Her expression sunk slightly, as a faint cold glint surfaced in her eyes. Her hand suddenly reached into her bosom, as she fished out a signal flare. Her gaze stared vigilantly at Yi Qing Luo, but she saw that the other party had no intention to stop her. Yi Qing Luo even smiled as she reminded, throw it carefully. Do you have the energy to throw it in your current state? Don't suffocate yourself. Ren Jianying held onto the signal flare tightly, as her exquisite face was twisted. Eldest young Miss Gu, we can't let her call the Ren family over. Now is a chance, we should capture her. Ren Jiaming pursed his thin lips tightly as he looked at Ren Jianying with a complicated gaze, while giving Yi Qing Luo a suggestion. Yi Qing Luo shook her finger. Don't panic, don't panic. Even if we stop her, I'm afraid there's no way to catch her today. The Palace of Darkness had used bait to lure her out. Naturally, he had made sufficient preparations. How could he let her take away this bait so easily? Even if Ren Jianying didn't take out the flare, in the end, he would probably be taken away by the people from the Nether Palace. There was no need for her to waste her time and heart to stop him. Ren Jiaming did not understand the reason behind it. He clenched his fists and said, if we let her go, it would be releasing a tiger back into the mountains. Now that she knows that you're back, she'll definitely take precautions. Little friend, don't be so anxious. Yi Qing Luo was about to pat Ren Jiaming's shoulder, before his hand fell. Then, she was stared at by a scorching gaze that made her hair stand on end, and she retracted her hand. Yi Qing Luo looked towards the direction where the gaze came from and smiled. until that scorching gaze calmed down. Yiqing Luo then looked towards Ren Jianming as her expression turned more serious. Even if Ren Jianming is brought back, I'm afraid she won't feel good. Ren Jianming went into a blank. You poisoned her? Looking at Ren Jianming's condition, it looked like she was poisoned. Yiqing Luo rolled her eyes. How can you guys malign me like this? I'm such a kind and gentle person, would I poison someone? Ren Jianming replied, yes. The group behind him replied, yes. Ren Jianming replied, if you didn't poison me, would I become like this? Chapter 46:18. Yiqing Luo. Couldn't she cooperate a little more? You're not poisoned. Yiqing Luo looked at Ren Jianming, but it's worse than being poisoned. Ren Jianming had already thrown out the signal flare in her hand, while Yiqing Luo and Ren Jianming were talking. She stuck close to the wall, panting heavily as she stared at Yiqing Luo vigilantly. Yiqing Luo, do you think that by poisoning me, you can solve the Heaven Realm's matter? I'm telling you, it's impossible. She caressed her neck with her hand. A wisp of coquettish red light floated faintly. Yiqing Luo's fingertips moved. A scorching feeling surged in her palm. It was the reaction of a divine relic. The reaction of the Azure Dew Ring, Azure Dew Pendant and Azure Dew Chain. Ren Jianming was displaying the power of a divine relic? Yiqing Luo's pupils shrank unconsciously as her brows creased. This wasn't right. How could Ren Jianming use the power of a divine relic? Didn't the divine emperor's blood have to be used before it could be used? Yiqing Luo's eyes turned cold as the glower flame fan suddenly moved. Her 5 fingers suddenly grabbed towards Ren Jianming's neck. Ren Jianming was prepared as she suddenly rolled. Following that, he grabbed the guard beside him and pushed him towards Yiqing Luo's direction. At the same time, Ren Jianming's fingertips were surrounded by a faint red glow. You want this? You can try. Ren Jianming gently caressed the brilliant necklace on her neck. Looking at Yiqing Luo's change of expression, she finally felt the pleasure of being in control. Azure Dew Chain. Barbaric Blood King was right. Ren Jianming indeed had an Azure Dew divine relic in her hands. As the Azure Dew Chain's light became more and more intense, Ren Jianming released the power of the divine relic. Little by little, it surrounded her body. There was no attack. It wasn't meant to be on guard. But Yiqing Luo could feel the power of the divine relic, emitting fluctuations. What was Ren Jianming trying to do? Lass, not good. Old Man Tsung's voice suddenly rang in her mind. His voice was very heavy. That is a forbidden art, evil spirit summoning. Evil spirit summoning? Such a Chunibu name? Evil spirit summoning isn't summoning evil spirits to do battle, but using the evil spirit aura to summon the same kind. Old Man Tsung said solemnly. Summoning his own kind? Yiqing Luo knitted her eyebrows as she still hadn't digested the meaning of Old Man Tsung's words. Just then, the Azure Water Ring, Azure Water Chain, and Azure Water Pendant became even more restless. It seemed like it was about to leave his hand and rush towards the Azure Aqua Light Chain. Yiqing Luo's mind suddenly sobered up. What you mean is, Ren Jianming had executed the evil spirit summoning, using the Azure Aqua Light Chain as a medium to summon the other Azure Aqua artifacts. That's exactly what I meant. Old Song was deeply worried. Once the Azure Water Divine artifact in your hands is summoned over, the Azure Water Divine artifact will no longer belong to you. Was this Ren Jianming's motive? Was this the goal of the secluded Darkness Palace? Did he want to obtain the vast Water Divine artifact from her? Yiqing Luo's 5 fingers clenched tightly as her fingertips pressed onto the Azure Dew Ring and the silk chain. That belonged to her mother. No one should even think of snatching it. Yiqing Luo's gaze swept over the guards who had rushed over and lowered her voice. Protect yourselves, I'll go settle that woman. Sister. Miao Xianxian suddenly went forward and pulled Yiqing Luo's arm. Sister, don't worry, I have a way to stop her. When Yiqing Luo turned back, she saw Miao Xuanxuan's bright and innocent smile. Chapter 46:19. Immediately, Miao Xianxian raised her hand. Her slender fingers touched something in her palm. Not too far away, Ren Jianying, who was casting the spell, suddenly turned pale and a mouthful of blood gushed out. Her entire body started to twitch. Yi Qing Luo. Her hoarse voice screamed Yi Qing Luo's name venomously. Her voice was filled with agony. At the same time, the agitation of the vast water divine weapon gradually subsided. Well done. Yi Qing Luo touched Miao Xuanxuan's little head. I'll give you the crystal later. Miao Xuanxuan's eyes were filled with smiles. If it's sister, then there's no need for any reward. It was Xianxian who took the initiative to help sister. Ren Jianming. What differential treatment? Why do you have to collect money from me for asking a few questions? You're not as good-looking as sister, Miao Xianxian said confidently. Ren Jianming. He was a man, why did he need to be so good-looking? It's you. What did you do to me? What did you do? Ren Jianying apparently heard their conversation as she looked at Miao Xianxian with a complicated gaze. Her internal organs felt like they were being gnawed by something. She couldn't bear the pain. This pain. It didn't seem like she was poisoned. What did that young lady do to her? When did she do it? Miao Xianxian was frightened by Ren Jianying's heart-wrenching roar and her sinister look as she shrank back. Yi Qing Luo shielded Miao Xianxian behind her, blocking Ren Jianying's crazed gaze. Patriarch Ren, aren't you a little too confident in your ability to predict the major events of the future like the back of your hand? Yi Qing Luo's lips curled up as she laughed coldly. He allowed the guards of the Ren family to rush over and surround them. Her expression didn't show any signs of panic. Ren Jianying's expression changed again as her fingers clenched tightly, suppressing the intense pain in her body. Yi Qing Luo mentioned her secret again. Once again, she told him her secret openly. This was the secret she relied on to survive. She must not let Yi Qing Luo continue. Yi Qing Luo took in all the fluster in Ren Jianying's eyes. Yi Qing Luo sarcastically tugged her lips. Don't worry, I'm not too interested in your matters, I'm just reminding you. The present is no longer the future that you once knew. Are you sure that you can really be the final winner? The mockery in her eyes deepened as she looked at the young lady behind her. Master Ren, this young lady. Her surname is Miao. Ren Jianying was still in shock over what Yi Qing Luo said. Suddenly, he heard the last sentence. Her brain was in a whirl. Trash. Suddenly, a sinister and hoarse voice came from not far away. The guards of the Ren clan retreated and opened up a path. A man in a black robe slowly walked over. That person's entire body was surrounded by an evil aura. His skinny face seemed to be propped up by a few bones. It was extremely strange. A thick black mist surged in his eyes. What a dense inchi! Yi Qing Luo frowned. This was the first time she had seen such a dense evil aura. It made her extremely uncomfortable. Just a few sentences and you've already defeated my will. What use do I have for you? That sinister and hoarse voice made Ren Jianying tremble as she raised her head. The gaze she shot at that person revealed a sliver of fear. Fear? There was actually someone who could make Ren Jianying feel fear? She thought. Ren Jianying thought that she was reborn, so she had nothing to fear. Latest update, no pop-up window please. Chapter 46:20. Yes, rebirth. Ren Jianying was someone who had been reborn. From the first time she heard Ren Jianming mention Ren Jianying, Yi Qing Luo had this guess. From the age of 7, she knew how to act in front of the elders and knew how to grab the business opportunities to develop her own power. She didn't believe that she was a genius. Furthermore, she was able to accurately know what had happened to the various large clans, as though she knew the future. Wasn't that rebirth? Ren Jianying was able to make use of her rebirth advantage to carve out a place for herself in the heaven realm. This was her own method and Yi Qing Luo wouldn't interfere. But what Ren Jianying shouldn't do was to stretch her hand over to her side, since she had chosen to cooperate with the Palace of Darkness. He had to accept any unforeseen event for his own choice and his own ambition. Because of her rebirth advantage, she wanted more and more, which eventually led to her ambition swelled. In the end, everything was heading in a different direction from what he had known back then. The current Ren Jianying. What advantage did she have from rebirth? Unfortunately, Ren Jianying didn't understand this logic. That black-robed man walked slowly to Ren Jianying's side and casually pulled her up. Grand Elder. Ren Jianying was in so much pain that her body was twitching. That slut on me. On me. Yes, Gu. Miao Xian, surname Miao. Miao Gu family. The black-robed man looked at her coldly and threw her onto the ground in disdain. Useless fellow. That man immediately turned his gaze towards Yiqing Luo and the rest. Finally, his gaze fell onto Miao Xian, cure the Gu. That sinister gaze and that sinister hoarse voice made one tremble in fear. The young lady was so frightened that she hid behind Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo held the young lady's shoulder lightly and welcomed that grand elder with a smile. "Io, the people from the Palace of Darkness are finally willing to appear?" Yiqing Luo. Grand Elder's eyes were gloomy like a poisonous snake. "Don't think that just because you've gotten the upper hand repeatedly, you can maintain your good luck. It seems that my luck is indeed very good." Yiqing Luo tilted her head and smiled faintly. "Grand Elder must be careful, don't be killed by my good luck." The Great Elder's eyes grew colder and more terrifying. "Don't be too happy yet. Who told you that I'm going to fight you?" Yiqing Luo raised her brows. "Then Great Elder's meaning is, you want to let that waste fight with me?" Yiqing Luo glanced at Ren Jianying meaningfully. Yiqing Luo. Ren Jianying's face flushed red from the humiliation as she clenched her teeth and stared at Yiqing Luo with a distorted expression. The Great Elder just smiled sinisterly. "I will make you hand over the divine weapon willingly." He waved his sleeve. Amidst the black mist, a figure slowly appeared before everyone's eyes. It was a man. He was about 20 years old and was dressed in a black robe. He exuded an unapproachable coldness from head to toe. A pair of pure blue eyes, without any emotions, stared at Yiqing Luo without blinking. "Leader!" Jean. When they saw that man, Yiqing Luo and the rest's expressions suddenly changed as they called out that man's name in disbelief. Wasn't that man standing in the black mist, emitting a cold aura, Long Yunjian? It was Long Yunjian whom they had been searching for a long time. Why was he at the Palace of Darkness? Yiqing Luo's eyes stared intently at Long Yunjian. Chapter 46:21. Even if they were standing face to face at such a close distance, Yiqing Luo had not sensed any fluctuation in the blood pact between her and Long Yunjian. The man in front of her, was it Long Yunjian? The both of them had once made a blood pact. As the master sighed, she should be able to clearly sense Long Yunjian's spiritual consciousness, as well as his current thoughts. But unfortunately, there was no connection between them. Could it be? Did the Palace of Darkness intentionally create a fake Long Yunjian to deceive her? It wasn't as though the Palace of Darkness had never done such a thing before. But, no matter how much she tried to build up her heart in her mind, or how she tried to find excuses, she was unable to deny that the moment she saw Long Yunjian, she had already confirmed that this person was Long Yunjian. It was impossible that she couldn't even recognize her own brother. Even if that person, when he looked at them, there wasn't any expression on his face. That pair of azure-blue pure eyes had no fluctuation of emotions. She was still certain. That person was Long Yunjian, her brother who had once fought side-by-side partner. Long Yunjian. Group leader. Yan Xiao and Xiao Jin had already rushed to Yiqing Luo's side, as they stared blankly at the man standing opposite them. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. That was their group leader. They had walked all the way from Nirvana Realm, from Devil Class to the current class monitor. But now, he was standing opposite them. Against them. Qing Luo. Yan Xiaoyi grabbed Yi Qing Luo's arm, as her palms were filled with cold sweat. Is he the group leader? Our group leader? Unable to believe that the person in front of them was the person who had experienced life and death with them. Yi Qing Luo didn't reply for a long time. Between her eyes, some kind of emotion was spreading. Yan Xiaoyi's heart seemed to be clutched by a huge palm, as even her breathing became stagnant, unbearable. How could group leader? Could it be that the Palace of Darkness had controlled him? Qiao Jin still had some rationality, as he looked at Long Yunzhan with a complicated expression. As he said that, he stretched out his hand to embrace Yan Xiaoyi, as he pressed her little head into his embrace, to let Yan Xiaoyi calm down her emotions. Yi Qing Luo shut her eyes slightly, and when she opened her eyes again, that pair of eyes which the wind and the whirlpool had already calmed down, yes. Naturally, it was because he was being controlled that Long Yunzhan stood on their opposing side. However, this time, it was different. There were some things that were different from simple control. She held on to Yan Xiaoyi's hand gently and patted it. Leave Zhan to me. I'll wake him up. You guys, take care of the others. Don't give Ren Jianying another chance to unleash her forbidden curse. But, can you really do it? These few words were at the tip of her tongue, but Yan Xiaoyi couldn't say them out. Could he bear to do it? Should he do it? What if Yi Qing Luo was able to do it? Should she stop it? That was their squad leader, their regiment commander, their comrade. What if Yi Qing Luo couldn't bear to do it? Should she help? If Long Yunzhan was controlled and repeatedly dealt a vicious blow to Yi Qing Luo would have some misgivings. What should they do? What should they do? He had to admit it. The Palace of Darkness was getting better and better at manipulating people's hearts. There was no need for a frontal attack. He had already taken advantage of the relationship that they cared about the most, routed them. Xiao Yi listened to Qing Luo. Qiao Jin held Yan Xiaoyi's little hand tightly as he pulled her. Let's go over and talk to Huang Fuxing, to try our best to stop Ren Jianying. Chapter 46-22. Yi Qing Luo's expression was slightly chilly as her eyes stared at Long Yunzhan without blinking. The words she spoke were directed at Grand Elder. Now the Palace of Darkness is only left with such despicable methods? Aren't you the clearest about the Palace of Darkness's despicableness? Grand Elder wasn't infuriated, instead he gave a cold laugh proudly. When you see your so-called brother standing on the opposite side of you, how will you choose? Will you choose to kill the other party for your own sake, or to fulfill your sentimental and righteous wish, to rather get yourself injured than to hurt him? Ha ha! This elder is really looking forward to this good show. Grand Elder laughed sinisterly. A pair of treacherous chilly eyes stared straight at Yi Qing Luo, as though he was staring at his prey. Just as he was prepared to go up and capture her, Yi Qing Luo's slender fingers clenched into a fist. She took a deep breath to calm her own emotions as her eyes gazed deeply at Long Yunzhan. Zhan. She opened her mouth as her voice was slightly low. Since when did it start? Her question made one unable to make head or tail of it. This made Yan Xiaoyi, who was gritting her teeth in anger from Grand Elder's words, look towards Yi Qing Luo in a daze. What did she mean by since when did it start? Wasn't the current Long Yunzhan already controlled? How could he possibly answer Yi Qing Luo's question? Just as everyone was filled with suspicions, they heard that expressionless, extremely cold man slowly opened his mouth. It was that day. Why didn't you come look for us? Yi Qing Luo smiled when she heard that as she asked again. Long Yunzhan's eyes moved slightly, like the ripples on the lake. Now, I'm here to look for you. Looking for me, that means. Right from the start, your target is me. Yi Qing Luo laughed softly as her brows were curved. But if one listened carefully, however, one could hear the bitterness and helplessness in her laughter. Long Yunzhan went silent, not knowing how to reply. Yan Xiaoyi, who was by the side, couldn't hold it in any longer when she heard their conversation. What do you mean? Qing Luo, what do you mean by that? Isn't Commander being controlled? Why? Listening to their conversation. But it seemed like the leader wasn't being controlled at all? Yiqing Luo took a look at Yan Xiaoyi as she pondered for a moment and wanted to reply. However, Long Yunzhan spoke first. I'm not being controlled. That pair of azure eyes looked at Yan Xiaoyi. It was as if he was looking at a stranger, cold and emotionless. I have been a member of the Palace of Gloomy Darkness since the beginning. This sentence exploded in the ears of Yan Xiaoyi and the rest with a boom. They stood there in a daze. He could hardly believe what he was hearing. Were they dreaming? How could their most respected and amiable class monitor, who had grown up with them, be someone from the Palace of Darkness? At that time, how could there be a Tengu Palace? Qing Luo, didn't you say that the group leader is being controlled? Why did he say that? Did the people from Dark Shadow Palace force him to say that? Yan Xiaoyi couldn't believe her own ears as she shook her head and anxiously sought confirmation from Yiqing Luo. This news, if those people in the world group were to find out about it, probably everyone would break down. Looking at Yan Xiaoyi's hopeful and flustered eyes, Yiqing Luo's eyes dimmed slightly. She lowered her eyes as she replied calmly, "Yes, he is indeed being controlled, but he's conscious now." Latest update, no pop-up window, please. Chapter 46-23. What do you mean? Yan Xiaoyi felt that her brain was unable to wrap itself around it. His eyes are very clear and very calm, there's no struggle, no unwillingness. Yiqing Luo's tone turned solemn. Clear meant that his consciousness was clear, and not that empty and soulless state after being controlled. Calm meant that under the condition that he was conscious, he accepted himself, standing on the opposite side of them. No struggle, no unwillingness, meant that there was nothing controlling his thoughts or willpower. Long Yunzhan was willing to stand on the opposite side of them. Group leader he. Yan Xiaoyi's heart tightened as her face turned pale. She suddenly looked towards Long Yunzhan, opening her mouth. It wasn't to berate, not to question, but, "Group leader, do you have something that you can't tell us? Did the secluded palace threaten you? Tell us. Tell Qing Luo. Didn't we say that no matter what happens, we will stand by each other's side unconditionally, to face all the problems together? No matter if it was Yan Xiaoyi or Qiao Jin, or those people who were still in Nirvana Realm or Earth Realm, the World Group." After hearing that Long Yunzhan was conscious, and was willing to be their enemy, they all believed that Long Yunzhan was absolutely not doing it on purpose, even if he was now willingly standing on the opposite side of them. That was because he had his own difficulties. They believed in their group leader. No. Long Yunzhan replied calmly, between his brows was calm and apathetic. "I just recovered my memories." Recovered? Memories? Yan Xiaoyi and Qiao Jin exchanged glances, as their expressions sunk. Yes, Long Yunzhan had lost his past memories. Long Yunzhan didn't have any memories before he joined the Devil class in Nirvana Realm. But now, he said he had regained his memories. Regained? Memories related to the secluded palace? "I'm from the secluded palace. My motive in Devil class is to wait for your appearance." Long Yunzhan looked at Yiqing Luo calmly. "You are my target." Impossible. Yan Xiaoyi couldn't believe that the class monitor, group leader who had fought alongside her, was someone who had been scheming right from the start. "How are you so sure that Qing Luo will definitely enter Heavenly Academy? How can you be sure that Qing Luo will enter the Devil class?" "Xiaoyi, don't say any more." Yiqing Luo took a deep breath. The expression on her face didn't have much emotion. It was as if she had already guessed all of this, ever since she saw Long Yunzhan again. Yiqing Luo had already deduced most of the matters in her mind. He doesn't need to be sure, because there's the Gloomy Palace. The mastermind of Gloomy Palace had planned everything. The Palace of Darkness had confirmed that she would enter the Heavenly Academy and join the Devil class. She was not surprised at all. I'm afraid that Ajah's memory loss is also the work of the gloomy palace. Yiqing Luo continued, if Ajah loses his memories, then he will be able to integrate into us and gain our trust, just like now. After that, he would find a suitable opportunity to let Long Yunjian recover his memories. It also allowed him to understand the mission that he had to complete. Yiqing Luo laughed softly as her eyes stared deeply at Long Yunjian. So, after you've recovered your memories, you've chosen the Palace of Darkness, intending to abandon this period of time, and everything that we've experienced? Long Yunjian's emotionless eyes flashed past a slight fluctuation. Very quickly, it disappeared in a fleeting moment. It was so fast that no one could catch it. The fastest update, no pop-up window to read. Chapter 46-24. But Yiqing Luo, who had been staring intently at Long Yunjian, caught it. Yiqing Luo's eyes flashed past a flash of understanding. She curled her lips slightly, as though she was smiling, but there wasn't a hint of a smile in her eyes. On the contrary, it looked a little horrifying. No matter if you're from the secluded palace or not, or what kind of mission you're carrying, but… Yiqing Luo looked at Long Yunjian's blue eyes as she said word by word, you can't deny that you've once fought side by side with Devil Class and the World Group. Long Yunjian, are you sure you want to abandon everything? Long Yunjian's pupils contracted slightly. There wasn't any emotion on his expressionless face, but the hands which were hanging by his side slowly clenched into fists. This elder asked him to come out, not for you to reminisce about the past. Grand Elder originally put on a complacent look when he heard Yiqing Luo's questioning. No matter what Yiqing Luo asked, the more Yiqing Luo questioned, the angrier she got. To force Yiqing Luo into a rage was not a bad choice at all. But under Yiqing Luo's questioning, Long Yunjian didn't say a single word. This made Grand Elder's heart sunk. Was he trying to incite Long Yunjian's emotions? Naive. Since he made Long Yunjian stand out to deal with Yiqing Luo, that was 100% certain that Long Yunjian would not be able to incite defection. He had no way to do so. Thinking of this, the Great Elder's lips twitched as he sneered. Yiqing Luo, don't waste your efforts, don't forget. 3 days ago, he even stabbed his long sword into your body. Yiqing Luo's expression turned cold. Mentioning this point, Long Yunjian's pupils shrunk twice. There were slivers of faint light scuttling in his pupils. Yiqing Luo's expression sunk slightly as her pink lips pursed slightly. Her gaze was as cold as ice as she looked at Grand Elder. So what? Nothing. Grand Elder laughed sinisterly. I only feel that your so-called brotherhood is really stupid and hilarious. He scoffed lightly. 3 days ago, the sword he stabbed into your body almost took your life, didn't it? If it wasn't for that ingrate, the palace master, who took advantage of the Lord's closed-door cultivation to save you, do you think you could have survived until now? When faced with someone who tried to kill you and nearly killed you in the past, you actually have extravagant hopes that he will change his mind. Are you a fool? After saying that, the Great Elder could not help but burst into laughter. His laughter was filled with mockery. What? Yan Xiao and Xiao Jin's expressions changed instantly as they looked at Yiqing Luo in astonishment. They knew that Long Yunjian had stabbed Yiqing Luo, but she had never thought that the injury would almost cost Yiqing Luo's life. I'm fine, don't listen to his nonsense. Yiqing Luo's gaze was still fixated on the changes in Long Yunjian's expression. She acutely saw Long Yunjian after hearing the words of the Great Elder just now. The expression on his face changed slightly. If she hadn't been staring at it, she probably wouldn't have noticed this subtle change. Nonsense. Grand Elder seemed as though he had heard a joke as he laughed out loudly. You know very well that this elder isn't talking nonsense. And to think that palace master did it for you, I'm afraid. He's going to be tortured by the Lord till he's no longer human. Yiqing Luo's heart thumped fiercely, as though there was an icy cold hand tightly grabbing onto her heart, squeezing it hard. making her feel as though she couldn't breathe properly. She couldn't maintain the calm expression on her face any longer. End of this chapter.